Chapter 1452. Who is it? Wu Shujian was shocked. Someone would definitely attack Jiang Tian. Wu Shujian had expected that. Jiang Tian and Qin Shuang were nothing, but Chancellor Kumu was from the 100 Moon Academy. The 100 Moon Academy was superior and had a close relationship with the Ruins Emperor Palace, Sky Palace and the 9 troops of the royal family. How could they allow an outsider to kill one of their important people? They would definitely take revenge. What frightened him was that person's skills. Jiang Tian's divine body had been reorganized 9 times and survived the thunder tribulations. It was extremely powerful. Even a quasi-Dao artifact like the dragon-slaying mystic blade could only leave a mark on Jiang Tian's body. It couldn't seriously injure Jiang Tian. Did a soul formation grand cultivator attack? Wu Shujian's face turned pale. What's going on? Why is the grotto heaven broken? All the restrictive spells have been destroyed. Senior Taichu, how are you doing? Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. One figure after another flew over like rainbows piercing through the sun. They were Qi Liqui, Ao Jiao, Long Shengnan and the other girls. Bai Zhe, Ta Kong and Yao Yuferi all followed them and stared at Jiang Tian nervously. It turned out that that person's slash was so powerful that it broke the grotto heaven of the Golden Crow ancient emperor and created a giant space crack. They were concerned about Jiang Tian's situation, so they immediately rushed over. It's a soul formation grand cultivator. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. A soul formation overlord was too powerful. More importantly, Jiang Tian was at the critical moment of his breakthrough. The gate of the grotto heaven was wide open and he was completely unprepared. Besides, the thunder tribulation hadn't ended yet. Jiang Tian was surrounded by enemies. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't resist. Within the vast lightning tribulation, Jiang Tian suffered a saber strike and was almost chopped into 2. The giant wound hadn't really healed and a large amount of divine blood fell. Jiang Tian's divine blood was extremely powerful. Each of them could crush a golden core cultivator. The heavens and the earth rumbled while the abode shook. In the sky, there seemed to be the sound of the grand Tao resonating while the laws surged. Waves of fluctuations that seemed capable of crushing the heavens filled the sky. This kind of fluctuation and power was terrifying. Even nascent soul cultivators would find it hard to withstand. They felt like they were being suppressed so deeply that it was difficult to even move their fingers. Good saber. Jiang Tian's expression was still very calm. In the void, a long saber that looked like a spike or an awl was floating. This blade was crystalline and translucent like a stream of light. It reflected the surrounding scenery and flickered with a cold light. It was extremely sharp, and one would feel as if one's soul was being sliced apart with a single glance. The surrounding space rippled like waves. This blade was clearly capable of interfering and even brazenly tearing space apart. It was abnormally powerful. Woo woo woo. Crack, crack. A spatial storm appeared around the saber, slicing the void into pieces. With Jiang Tian's eyesight, he could naturally tell at a glance that this was a true Dao artifact. Its lethality far surpassed Long Shengnan's dragon-slaying mysterious blade. It contained the fragments of the Grand Tao and was a peerless Dharma treasure created by a soul formation grand cultivator. Plink. A pale-skinned hand reached out from the void and grasped the handle of the strange saber. Then, a figure stepped out of the void and gradually appeared. It was a man wearing a black cloak. His pale face was covered by a black cloth and his eyes were extremely indifferent and calm. There was no trace of human emotion. His long robe fluttered in the wind and his cloak and robe fluttered in the wind, like a giant crow in the sky. He gave people an extremely ominous feeling and gave them goosebumps. From his body, Jiang Tian felt an aura similar to the power of space. It was as if he was a part of space and not a mortal body. Kong Taichu, you're very powerful. I can't believe you're still alive after taking a hit from me. The man said with a gloomy voice, like glass scraping the bottom of a pot. It was hoarse and harsh, making people's scalp tingle and goosebumps rise. Ghost Wolf. It's him. At this moment, Yao Yu Fairy yelled and Wu Shujian was also startled. I heard that he was the top peerless talent of the Chaos Cave sect 5,000 years ago. He was the best at traveling through dimensions, hiding and assassinating. Even Long Baxia and Qin Shuang were no match for him. Some even said that he once tried to rebel against the ruins of deity and entered the emperor's palace several times to assassinate people. He was able to escape when surrounded by several soul formation and nascent soul cultivators. He once killed soul formation cultivators and only captured him when the top overlord of the emperor's palace, Sword God. He should have been sentenced to death if he went to the emperor's palace and offended the power of heaven. But Sword God cherished his talent and didn't want to kill him. He even appointed him as the vice-captain of the Dark Crow Guards, one of the top 3 assassins in the ruins of deity. Long Pajuan said with his immortal will, reminding Jiang Tian to be careful. That kid was a half-soul formation cultivator and was good at hiding in dimensions and assassinating people. Long Shengnan, Qi Liqui and Ao Jiao felt suffocated. The vice-captain of the Dark Crow Guards was one of the top 3 assassins in the ruins of deity. He was able to escape when he attacked the emperor's palace. Even Long Baxia and Qin Shuang weren't as powerful as him. He had even killed a soul formation overlord. Master, you have to be careful. The blade in his hand is called Void Piercer. It's the most precious treasure of the Chaos Cave sect. It's made with Hell Ghost iron and refined with the Dimension Law and Grand Tao for 10,000 years. It can tear the dimension apart and even create a dimensional curvature wave to increase its speed. Long Pajuan was anxious. An overlord like Ghost Wolf was definitely terrifying. Not only was he powerful, but he was also good at all kinds of assassinations. Normally, he wouldn't fight with his Dharma power and cultivation. Instead, he would dodge and attack, which was impossible to guard against. That way, he would preserve his strength to the greatest extent and sacrifice a lot of his enemies in exchange for a small price. So, even though he was only a half-soul formation cultivator, he was still able to kill soul formation overlords. He's just someone who lost to Sword God in the Emperor's palace. If he were here in person, I might have to be careful. Jiang Tian's expression was very calm. It could even be said that he was looking down on him. Assassination? Tearing the dimension? If Jiang Tian used the extreme speed of the Kuan Peng, not many people could surpass him. The Kuan Peng controlled the dimension law. It was almost instinctive. It could attack 3,000 worlds in an instant. It was unparalleled. Ghost Wolf? Jiang Tian could tell. He had a kind of dark crow bloodline. This kind of strange bird bloodline was not bad. It could indeed break the dimension in a small area. But it also depended on who it was compared to. In terms of speed and length, the dark crow bloodline couldn't compare to the Kuan Peng bloodline. You're arrogant. You can't hold on. A gloomy smile appeared at the corner of Ghost Wolf's mouth. His scarlet eyes were full of cold mockery. It could be said that he was extremely conceited. Void Piercer wasn't an ordinary weapon, but a Tao artifact. It would leave traces of the great Tao. Jiang Tian had already been hit. He couldn't live for more than 10 seconds. But immediately, his smile and mockery froze on his face. He couldn't smile anymore. This was because he saw vermilion bird flames erupt from Jiang Tian's wound. The traces of the great Tao left behind by the Void Piercer were completely disintegrated in the blink of an eye. The wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Runes formed by blood intertwined and quickly repaired the wound. In just 3 seconds, Jiang Tian had returned to his original state. Chapter 1453. How is that possible? Ghost Wolf's eyes were wide open. For the first time, a serious expression appeared on his face. He was even a little flustered. This kind of panic was extremely rare for him. As one of the top 3 assassins in the ruins of immortality, Ghost Wolf had killed too many people. He had killed as many nascent soul stage cultivators as he could count them on 2 hands. He had also carried out many extremely dangerous missions. He had been besieged by many nascent soul stage cultivators and divinity transformation stage cultivators. His mind had been tempered to the extreme. But this time he panicked. That was because he knew how powerful Void Piercer was. His Void Piercer was the most precious treasure of the Chaos Cave sect. It was left behind by a soul formation cultivator in the ancient times and had been refined countless times by him. It was a fierce and powerful Daoist artifact. After being stabbed, it would leave traces of the great path in the enemy's body, which would constantly devour the enemy's blood essence and cultivation. Only soul formation cultivators could hope to resolve it. As for golden core cultivators and nascent soul cultivators, once they were hit, they would die immediately. But the kid in front of him was only in the nascent soul realm, but he could burn the traces of the great path and repair his body so quickly. It was unbelievable. Ghost Wolf was shocked, but he quickly calmed down. His Taoist heart was far stronger than that of Chancellor Kumu and Qin Shuang. He was resolute and fierce without the slightest hesitation. Kong Teichu, you will always be an ant in the mortal world. Since you are an ant, you should have the self-awareness of an ant. Lie on the ground and die silently. You shouldn't have resisted. Ghost Wolf's face was gloomy and endless determination flashed across his face. He held the void piercer with both hands and slowly raised it. With a swish, the void shattered. He pierced through the space and disappeared into it. In the next moment, he appeared behind Jiang Tian. The piercing space spear appeared once again, stabbing towards Jiang Tian's back without making any sound. In the eyes of ordinary people, this attack was silent, but only cultivators above the nascent soul realm could feel that the space was shattered and a hole had been pierced. This kind of space-shattering power was incomparably powerful. Once affected, even an immortal golden core cultivator or a more tenacious and powerful nascent soul cultivator would be shattered and annihilated. Swish! This saber strike was too strange. Its speed was comparable to the speed of light. Even with Jiang Tian's heaven-defying speed and without using the Kunpeng's extreme speed, he could only turn half of his body around. The 3-foot-long divine disc behind him rumbled and the Gungjin nascent soul trembled. Jiang Tian switched to the Gungjin immortal body and raised his golden arms to meet the attack. As a result, the saber stabbed at him. The terrifying power of space shattering caused cracks to appear on Jiang Tian's right hand, causing sparks to erupt. The terrifying space-piercing power passed through the back of Jiang Tian's hand and directly broke through the heavenly abode's enchantment. It even pierced a huge hole in a 1,000-foot-tall mountain outside the heavenly abode. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines as cold sweat trickled down their backs. Too strong. Ghost Wolf's attack could easily kill a nascent soul heavenly lord. Regardless of what level of nascent soul he was at, he definitely had the power to kill a normal nascent soul cultivator. Even if you were at the peak of the nascent soul stage, or even half a step into the divine transformation stage, you might not be able to do that. That was why Ghost Wolf was so terrifying. The art of assassination allowed his combat power to be much higher than his cultivation level. He could kill enemies at a higher level. You are so lucky this time. If I had hit your Dantian, you would have been killed. Ghost Wolf's eerie voice rang out, but he had already disappeared along with the void-piercing saber. Just like his name, he was as elusive as a ghost and as vicious as a wolf. He was the best assassin cultivator. If he missed his target, he would immediately escape into the heavenly abode. But you won't be so lucky this time. Then, without any warning, Ghost Wolf appeared in a completely unimaginable position and attacked again from an unimaginable angle. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Ghost Wolf used his full strength. He broke through the heavenly abode again and jumped out of the heavenly abode to stab Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian could only resist with the gung metal immortal body, which had the strongest defense. Almost in the blink of an eye, Jiang Tian was hit several times. Jiang Tian's gung metal immortal body instantly cracked. The most serious wounds were so deep that his bones could be seen. His organs were implicated as divine blood stained the sky. Terrifying. As expected of the third-ranked assassin in the ruins of immortality. I heard that no one has ever seen his true face in his entire life at the ultimate realm because those who have seen him are all dead. Wu Shujian shuddered in fear. 100 Moon's Academy nurtured cultivators loyal to the Ruins Emperor and had set up many courses. And Ghost Wolf's few assassination attempts were treated as classic examples by countless chancellors and instructors for them to learn from. It could be said that if not for the sword god of the ruins Emperor's palace personally suppressing him, Ghost Wolf might not have been subdued. He would still be able to roam the various worlds, catching people off guard and leaving them helpless. Senior, be careful. Qi Liqui and Ao Jiao cried out worriedly. Even Patriarch Takong broke out in a cold sweat for Jiang Tian. He had the Kuanpeng bloodline and was known for his movement techniques and speed. However, he had not reached Ghost Wolf's level of shuttling through space as though it was water. He was completely at the mercy of nature. However, Jiang Tian showed no fear. He had yet to use his true strength. If he were to use the Kuanpeng's extreme speed, Ghost Wolf would probably immediately be captured. He had yet to use many of his Dharma treasures. If he were to draw absolute heaven, he would probably be able to instantly shatter Void Piercer. Furthermore, he had yet to fully use his gung metal immortal body. That was because he still needed to withstand the lightning tribulations to strengthen and temper his vermilion bird divine body. Many a time, the moment the lightning tribulations descended, he would immediately transform his physique. However, Ghost Wolf was different. He was attacking with all his strength and was even fighting with his life on the line. Jiang Tian could not help but suspect that the punk had something in the hands of the ruins Emperor's palace. If not, he would not have risked his life. Admit defeat. Kneel down and submit. With Void Piercer in hand, Ghost Wolf bellowed coldly. No one is the match of the ruins Emperor. Emperor Zhongli can't do it. Ao Wuchang can't do it. Jiao Rui can't do it. Similarly, you can't do it either. As he bathed in the massive lightning tribulations, Jiang Tian's vermilion bird divine body was constantly covered in charred marks. There were also terrifying wounds left behind by Void Piercer. You were once like me, resisting the ruins Emperor. But in the end, you lost your drive and courage because of your failure. You are a true coward. However, Jiang Tian remained calm. The lightning tribulations were a rare form of tempering. He also treated the Void Piercer's attacks as a form of tempering. Again and again he was slashed and injured before being mended. It was like ordinary metal being tempered thousands of times. It became more solid and resilient, reaching an unimaginable level of strength. Jiang Tian's face was filled with mockery as he said indifferently, "I don't know what kind of failure and pain you experienced. Was it the humiliation of your wife and daughter, or the annihilation of your clan, that made you forget who your true enemy was? That made you become a slave to this extent, serving your former enemy?" Upon hearing Jiang Tian's words, Ghost Wolf's face suffused anger for the first time. Yes, anger. Before this, Ghost Wolf's face would be filled with contempt or disdain. However, he was always cold, as though he had no human emotions. But this time, he was touched on his sore spot. "Shut up," Ghost Wolf bellowed with hatred. His right hand gripped Void Piercer tightly. "Chila." The Void Piercer let out a shrill cry in his hand. It sounded like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves. The great Tao fragments contained within had been completely stimulated and were wailing in admiration. Resplendent streams of light instantly flew out from the surroundings of the Void Piercer. It was a beautiful sight to behold. However, Patriarch Takong and the others who truly understood what was happening were alarmed as they cried out in alarm. That was space being pierced into the tiniest spatial particles. The Void Piercer was completely unobstructed. At that moment, the great Tao of heaven and earth resonated with each other. The vast laws were boiling. It was as though a true soul formation realm mighty figure was awakening. The pressure was immense, and the entire grotto heaven was riddled with holes. The ancient bronze hall was reduced to rubble. Even the entire ancient demon abyss was trembling. Streams of spatial turbulence shot out in all directions. Within a radius of a few thousand miles, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Some golden core stage demonic beasts were suddenly split into two. Sparkling blood rained down. They did not even have the time to cry out before their corpses fell heavily on the ground. They died silently just like that. Chapter 1454. Black Rock City, City Lord Manor. Qi Joey, who was guarding the place, suddenly opened his eyes. His face was filled with panic as he said in surprise, "What's going on? That's a Dao treasure. Who would activate a Dao treasure in the ancient demon abyss? Could it be for the Taichu Heavenly Lord? This is bad." Tens of thousands of miles away, on an unknown ancient teleportation array platform, cultivators wearing white-scaled armor with terrifying white pythons embroidered on their battle robes stood in great numbers in the air. They were expressionless, silent, and strict. There were at least tens of thousands of them, and one couldn't see the end of them with a single glance. Most of them were at the Golden Core realm. In the Ingzhou world, they would be city lords, generals, and nobles. But here, it was obvious that he was only a guard at the lowest level. Huge bronze ancient warships floated in the air. Other than that, there were also other huge Dharma treasures. They looked majestic and powerful. This was an elite troop. Ghost Wolf seems to have used his full strength. Sigh, the Dark Crow Guards have taken the lead this time. The captain of the White Python Guards, a half-step soul formation Grand Cultivator, Wu Huan, stood on the deck of a huge warship and smiled casually. Although the Ruins Emperor's Palace's sword god placed great importance on the mission, to the point of sending Prince Qiuming to supervise the battle in the sea below world, Wu Huan felt that it was making a mountain out of a molehill. The operation to kill Jiang Tian was nothing more than a trip to the lower realms. He thought nothing of it. How powerful could a mere lower world cultivator be? So what if he killed a few nascent soul realm cultivators? But he didn't know that in the vast ruins of immortality, nascent soul realm cultivators were as numerous as carps in the river. There were even quite a number of soul formation realm cultivators. Wu Huan was already a half-step soul formation realm cultivator and was powerful enough. But he was only the captain of the White Python Guards, one of the 9 guards of the Ruins Emperor. He wasn't even the captain of the Golden Crow Guards. Ghost Wolf is already very powerful. He even used his ancestral void-piercing saber. When he uses it at full strength, it's comparable to the attack of a soul formation realm cultivator. The deputy captain said angrily, "But Prince Qiuming arranged it this way. What can we do? After this battle, the Dark Crow Guards will be ranked ahead of us." "That's not the case." Captain Wu Huan shook his head and said casually, "You have just been appointed, so there's a lot of news that you are unaware of. In fact, there are countless cultivators like Kong Teichu who don't know what's good for them in resisting the Ruins Emperor. I kill thousands of them every year. There's nothing special about Kong Teichu. It's just a small addition to the Dark Crow's achievements, but it still can't compare to our White Python Guard. Alas, if we had thousands of men and horses, we would have directly trampled over them. Kong Teichu's body and soul would definitely be destroyed. Is there a need to go through so much trouble?" The leader of the Golden Crow Guards, Shenchang, also snorted coldly from another teleportation formation in the distance. He was tall and wore golden armor. He was as tall and majestic as a mountain. He was also at the half-step divine transformation realm. However, his strength was even deeper than Wu Huan's. He was infinitely close to the divine transformation realm. It was as though he was only separated by a thin layer of paper. He could reach the limit in battle at any time and break through the bottleneck. Behind him, tens of thousands of cultivators stood. They were even stronger than the White Python Guards and were equipped with elite equipment. The purple bronze warships and dragon horse war chariots formed a metal torrent that seemed to be able to destroy everything. They were the top elite guards under the Ruins Emperor's Palace. They were even stronger than the other 8 guards and were highly regarded by Prince Qiuming and the sword god of the Ruins Emperor's Palace. Behind him, there were also some cultivators who did not wear armor, but instead wore feather robes and star crowns. They were like flames that burned the sky, or bright moons, or suns that covered the sky, or flickering with silver light. Every single one of them had a powerful aura, and their bodies were surrounded by the rumbling of laws. No one dared underestimate them. They were the elite cultivators of the 6 major heavenly sects from the below sea world. There were more than 100 of them, and each of them was at the nascent soul realm. They could be called heavenly lords. At that moment, countless cultivators from the upper world looked at the ancient demon abyss with disdain, as if they were watching someone seriously squash an ant. And Jiang Tian was that ant that was about to be squashed to death. The void-piercing blade pierced through the air like a ray of light. An earth-shattering battle had finally begun. When the blade pierced through the air, the dimension collapsed and countless mountains collapsed. Colorful cracks in the dimension covered the sky like a spider web and extended for a few kilometers. Even the thunder tribulation in the sky was triggered and turned into bolts of lightning in the shape of divine beasts. Qilins, dragons, tigers, fire phoenixes and mystic snakes attacked Jiang Tian from the sky. It was a terrifying scene and there were all kinds of strange noises that were deafening. Traces of Dao fragments appeared in the sky. That attack had the power of a soul formation realm cultivator and was full of killing intent. Any trace of Dao could easily kill a nascent soul heavenly lord. How terrifying! Wu Shujian felt a chill down his spine. The void-piercing blade was a Dao artifact that contained Dao fragments. It was refined by a living fossil of a soul formation cultivator and could temporarily unleash the power of a soul formation cultivator. Wu Shujian had never seen the traces of the great Dao that tore through the void and caused everything to collapse in an instant, and the dazzling saber light. In his opinion, even the elites of the God of War role, the sect masters of the heavenly sects, the leaders of the families and all the nascent soul cultivators were like ants in front of that slash. It could be said that any blade aura or trace of the great path could easily kill a talent on the God of War list. That's a real Dao artifact. Even the Dragon Slayer Mystic Blade is a far cry from it. Long Shengnan looked at the blade aura in the sky that easily cracked the dimension and shattered the sky. She was so excited that her body trembled. Her Divine Slayer Mystic Blade was called a quasi-Dao artifact, but the void-piercing blade was a Dao artifact. It was only at this moment that she realized the enormous gap that this difference of one word represented. As for Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui, they were already trembling in fear. If it weren't for the fact that Ta Kong and Long Pejuan had formed a shield with their true essence, golden core cultivators like them would have been torn to pieces and smashed to pieces. Right then, the fierce beasts of the ancient demon abyss and the cultivators of the Black Rock City were running away. They couldn't withstand the terrifying pressure. That's a battle between soul formation grand cultivators. Run, run. Don't get us involved. Soul formation grand cultivators. They're going to destroy our world. They were terrified and ran away like a tide. The energy waves were too terrifying. The ground shook like the skin of a drum. The gullies became mountains and the peaks sank into the abyss. In the legends, the ancient sages could move mountains and fill seas, and turn land into rivers, but that was it. The soul formation grand cultivators were indeed terrifying. They were superior and looked down on everyone. Not to mention the Ingzhou state, there hadn't been a single soul formation grand cultivator in tens of thousands of years, including the Hailan world. To be exact, there might not be a nascent soul cultivator in their world for thousands of years. How could they not be scared when the soul formation grand cultivators were fighting? If such giants clashed, they would probably destroy a small portion of the ancient demon abyss. It would cause the heavens to crumble and the earth to crack. It might even spread outwards and cause the Blackrock City to crumble. City-destroying fiery blade. Facing this attack that could sink a continent and pierce through the sky, Jiang Tian coldly snorted and used the vermilion bird divine body. Streams of flames gushed out from his body, and then he caught the fire and condensed it into a blade, blocking it with his blade. At this time, Jiang Tian's vermilion bird true fire was already incomparably solid. This flaming long blade looked as if it was carved out of magnificent agate, sparkling and translucent. However, the powerful essence of the true fire inside had caused the space within 10 miles to collapse. Jiang Tian's fire blade was also formed, which could burn mountains, boil oceans and melt stars. Even 10 nascent soul stage cultivators couldn't resist it if they worked together. But the next second, swish! Jiang Tian's fire saber forbidden domain was instantly pierced through like a piece of paper, unable to withstand a single blow. Jiang Tian, along with his saber, was stabbed into a large mountain, forming a hole that was dozens of kilometers long. It was like an underground cave. Chapter 1455. Senior. My lord. Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui turned pale as they cried out in shock. Oh no. Even Bai Zhe, Ta Kong, and Mingyi's expressions changed drastically. Kill him together. The big black dog was so angry that his eyes turned scarlet. This time, he was not afraid and wanted to avenge Jiang Tian. Since the day he followed Jiang Tian, he had never seen Jiang Tian suffer such a big loss. At this moment, he hated Ghost Wolf to the core and wanted to chew him to pieces. It's just a little crow. What's there to be afraid of? Beat him up. Bai Zhe activated his Dharma idol and wanted to fight Ghost Wolf. He only knows how to sneak attack. Today, he must be killed. Ao Jiao and Princess Liqui also activated their bloodlines and activated their Dharma idols. Ha! The winner is king. The loser is a bandit. Ghost Wolf's face was gloomy. He was very vicious and ruthless. He attacked Ao Jiao and Princess Liqui with his saber. Buzz. The ground trembled, and a space seemed to have been opened. A majestic Kunpeng with huge wings covered the sky as if it could destroy 3,000 worlds appeared out of thin air. It grabbed Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The place where the two women were standing was suddenly pierced by the Kunpeng, and a huge crack more than 20 kilometers long appeared. It was as shocking as the Grand Canyon of East Africa. Such a strange thing shocked everyone. Even Wu Shujian was shocked. How did the two women suddenly disappear? That Kunpeng could actually break through space. There was a loud rumble. Rocks flew into the air and soil flew. Jiang Tian soared into the sky, and a shocking hole appeared in his chest. Even the organs were clearly visible in this hole. There were flames lingering around it and divine blood permeating the air. For many cultivators, this could be said to be a fatal wound. However, Jiang Tian's battle intent was still high, and his killing intent was surging. His expression was very calm and composed, and it even carried a faint trace of disdain. Senior Tai Chu. At this moment, everyone was shocked. Not to mention the result of this battle, it was already a miracle that Jiang Tian could last until now. It was enough to be proud of the world. What a hateful guy. They're like cockroaches, dirty and tenacious. Ghost Wolf revealed a look of anger. His eyes were as fierce as those of a wolf that was about to devour its prey. He had not expected such an outcome. He originally thought that as long as he made a move, he would be able to finish off Jiang Tian with a single slash. At this moment, he felt that his dignity as one of the top 3 assassins of the ruins of immortality had been trampled under Jiang Tian's feet. How many chances have you had? The wounds on Jiang Tian's vermilion-bird godly body were covered in flames that quickly dissolved the marks left by the air piercer. Those wounds healed at a speed that naked eyes could observe. Even if he was in a disadvantageous position, he still didn't feel the slightest sense of panic, nor did he seem to be in a sorry state. Instead, he was extremely domineering, calm and carefree, and it was as if he possessed the pearl of wisdom. Ghost Wolf, I know that you were once suppressed by the Ruins Emperor. You even have a blood feud with him. Shake hands with me and make peace. Let's go to the Ruins Emperor's palace to seek justice from that old wretch. As soon as Jiang Tian said this, many upper realm cultivators who were watching from afar and observing with their divine senses almost burst out laughing. This guy really doesn't know what's good for him. He doesn't know what's good for him. He's about to die and he still wants to incite Ghost Wolf. What's his brain made of? He's being suppressed by Ghost Wolf and can't fight back at all. How dare he be so arrogant? He doesn't know that Ghost Wolf is already half a step away from soul formation. With a Dao artifact, he can unleash the power of a soul formation cultivator several times. I'm afraid that Kong Teichu will die in less than 10 breaths. How dare he say such nonsense? Creatures from the lower realm are just stupid. Maybe he doesn't even know what a real Dao artifact is. Is that called the lower realm? The earth realm he's in is a desolate wasteland. People like him are cockroaches. The Golden Crow Guards, the White Python Guards and the sect masters and elders of the 6 heavenly sects in the Below Sea world, except for the Dragon Gate, were all powerful nascent soul cultivators. They also looked at him with disdain, as if they were looking at a fool. You talk too much nonsense. Ghost Wolf's weakness had been touched. He was extremely irritated and his murderous intent surged. The air piercer attacked again, shocking the world. Dharma laws surged and the great Tao rumbled. The power of a soul formation cultivator was completely unleashed. Boom! The rumbling of the great Tao resonated with his actions. The entire grotto heavens seemed to be collapsing. A visible dimensional energy swept toward Jiang Tian like waves. Jiang Tian was knocked dozens of kilometers away and crashed into many mountains. In the end, his body sank into a mountain and disappeared again. At this moment, Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui couldn't take it anymore. Even though they didn't want to, they were still dragged out of the grotto heaven by Ta Kong and Mingyi. Even Wu Shujian didn't dare to stay there any longer. He immediately ran away with Fairy Yao Yu. The grotto heaven was about to collapse and many arrays were about to be activated. By then, not even nascent soul cultivators would be able to withstand it. They would be torn to pieces. However, Jiang Tian didn't seem to feel anything. He rose to the sky again and dashed toward Ghost Wolf while bathing in the Thunder Tribulation Ocean, as if he were courting death. Rumble! At this moment, the entire paradise began to crumble. One by one, the formations and seals that were created by the ancient sages began to explode with extreme power. In the sky, huge mushroom clouds rose. Every time they exploded, the terrifying shockwaves were comparable to 10 nuclear explosions. The destructive power was astonishing. The terrifying energy surged and rubbed against each other. This kind of explosion was nothing to the Ghost Wolf. He was like a ghost, drifting in and out of the mushroom cloud like a butterfly. He didn't get hurt at all. At the same time, he slashed at Jiang Tian again and again without showing any mercy. And Jiang Tian, from time to time, he would stagger or stiffen from being struck by the lightning tribulation, or he would be blown away by the collapsing and exploding formations like a rag doll. At this moment, the air-piercing saber would definitely not let him off after gaining the upper hand. It would immediately pierce through his body. If his red bird divine body didn't have a good recovery ability, he would have died. Even so, he was still suppressed by Ghost Wolf. Kong Teichu is going to die. Many elders of the heavenly sects and the masters of the White Python Guards, the Golden Crow Guards and the Dark Crow Guards were watching the battle a few 100,000 kilometers away with immortal will or dharma artifacts. There's no doubt about it. Ghost Wolf and the real air-piercing blade. Even Cheng Aojuan or Luo Changshan on the longevity roll, or a real soul formation grand cultivator, would be defeated. The masters of the Dark Crow Guards were proud of them. Even a lion tries its best to catch a rabbit. Don't be careless. Kong Teichu seems to know how to break the dimension. He might run away. Friends, spread out and surround the ancient demon abyss. The White Python Guard Wuhuan warned. But it was just a habit. He still looked relaxed and apparently thought it wouldn't be a problem to kill Jiang Tian. The outcome had been decided and nothing could be changed. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian seemed to be in a miserable state. The power of the air-piercing Dao artifact was too terrifying. Even an inferior-grade air-piercing Dao artifact was as powerful as a soul formation grand cultivator. Before he reached the nascent soul level, it was indeed a bit difficult for him. He was like a withered leaf in the wind and was blown away again and again. He was like a small boat in the middle of a huge wave. He couldn't control his own trajectory and was almost torn apart by the storm. But all of this was part of Jiang Tian's plan. The red bird divine body was going through the thunder tribulation. It wouldn't be easy for him to kill Ghost Wolf. So, he might as well take advantage of the situation. He treated Ghost Wolf's air-piercing blade as a tribulation to purify his divine body, refine his golden core and strengthen his divine soul. That way, the red bird divine body would enter the transcendence level faster. It would be flawless and perfect. I'll take your life in 3 slashes. Ghost Wolf snorted and stabbed with his blade. That slash knocked Jiang Tian out of the grotto heaven small world of the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor and into the ancient demon abyss. His black cloak fluttered in the wind and he approached with a blade in his hand. His pale face was full of murderous intent and coldness. He was like a crow from hell, giving people an ominous feeling. Chapter 1456. The space around the void piercer shattered like diamonds, sparkling and resplendent as it floated in the air. At this moment, Jiang Tian looked miserable. His body was covered in wounds, and blood was dripping from the corner of his mouth. At this moment, he was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. In the eyes of everyone, Jiang Tian was no match for Ghost Wolf. He could not last 3 strikes. At this moment, Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui were pale. Bai Zhe and Long Pejuan were impulsive. They wanted to go save Jiang Tian, but they were forcefully held back by old monster sticks and old ancestor Taka. It was not that they were not loyal or worried, but they knew that if they rushed up, they would not be able to last more than a flick of a finger. They could not change the outcome. Moreover, they had confidence in Jiang Tian. Listen to the command. The master did not order us to go forward. Mingi blocked Long Pejuan's path and yelled, "Do you think we're afraid of death? Never. Our lives belong to the master. If he wants us to die, we will not hesitate." Did you not notice that the master is smiling? Takong reminded them. How could they be afraid of death? This was because Long Pejuan did not understand their friendship with Jiang Tian. Long Pejuan and the others turned around in shock. They saw that Jiang Tian was standing in the air and smiling. Could it be? Everyone was suspicious. You are about to die, and you are still smiling. Are you crazy? Ghost Wolf approached with his saber. Did you not notice? The lightning trial is over. Jiang Tian's face was calm. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He was intoxicated. Ghost Wolf looked around and saw that the lightning clouds, lightning dragons, and sea of lightning had all disappeared. Even the miasma in the ancient demon abyss had disappeared. Only pure spiritual chi was left. It was as if this was not the territory of demonic beasts, but a paradise for cultivation. Kiki, so what? Without the help of the lightning trial, I can still kill you like a dog. Ghost Wolf's aura was sinister and evil. The Dark Crow's body was very special. It could fuse and travel through different levels of space. Intuitively, he was like a shadow, appearing and disappearing. Chila. He suddenly moved again. Like a bolt of lightning, he split open space and charged towards Jiang Tian. The void piercer stabbed again. He could vaguely see that it was clearly daytime, but wherever the blade passed, there was a bustling city. Lanterns were lit, and it was night. Pedestrians were strolling, and there was even a starry sky. There were desolate meteorites, and the scenery of outer space. All of this was incompatible with the primitive atmosphere of the ancient demon abyss. Everyone was shocked and dumbfounded. With a single stab, the ghost wolf split the heavens and the earth. The primal chaos of the sun and the moon gave birth to the world. It actually created a space of 10,000 feet out of thin air, or adhered to the space of another dimension. He used the power of space to attack Jiang Tian. The dimension he stabbed might be thousands of miles away, in another world, or even in the depths of the unknown universe. If Jiang Tian was hit, his body and divine soul would be torn apart and sent to different worlds. Not even a soul formation grand cultivator would be able to rebuild his body. Sigh. The end of the lightning tribulation means that my vermilion bird divine body has truly transcended. The vermilion bird true fire law true seal had also been refined to an incomparably solid state. The third transformation of the divine disk is truly complete. Before the blade that split the sky and earth, created chaos and created space, Jiang Tian was very calm. He slowly raised his arm. This also means that I can use my full strength without any worries. He stretched out his fair and translucent right hand like a girl's hand. There was no sense of danger. Under the disbelieving gaze of the crowd and amidst the exclamations of the crowd, he crushed the space of 10,000 feet. The blade radiance of the void piercer was firmly held in his hand, as if he was holding a fragile hemp stick. At this moment, countless cultivators in the ancient demon abyss, the Black Rock City, and the teleportation arrays thousands of miles away were all shocked. There was dead silence in the sky and on the ground. Rumble. Jiang Tian grabbed the void piercer with his ordinary right hand. Even though the surrounding space was broken, it couldn't move his hand at all. It didn't even leave a white mark. The vermilion bird divine body wasn't the strongest among Jiang Tian's divine bodies. In terms of defense, it was far inferior to the aged metal, thick earth and sea-calming ice god physique. However, transcendence was transcendence. It was on a different level of life, like a deity. Even if he didn't use his full power, he was still indestructible. How is that possible? Long Shengnan was extremely shocked. She felt that this scene was familiar. It was very similar to when he fought against her quasi-Dao artifact, the dragon slayer Xian Saber, on the 18 Island. But that was only a half-step Dao artifact. And now, the Void Piercer was already a real Dao artifact. It was many times more terrifying than the dragon slayer Xian Saber. More importantly, Jiang Tian obviously didn't use the power of his divine body. It was as if he was in a natural state. That's terrifying. That's a Dao artifact. It contains fragments of the Dao and can interfere with space. Ta Kong, Mingyi and the others were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out. They had been with Jiang Tian for a long time, so of course they knew Jiang Tian's power. The divine plate had 9 transformations, and each transformation was a golden pellet, so there were 9 of them. Jiang Tian's golden cores were different from those of ordinary people. They were like galaxies and the number was also different. Besides, Jiang Tian already had 3 golden cores in the state of nascent soul and he had even formed a true seal of laws. They had seen too many Jiang Tian surpass the nascent soul level and they were a bit numb from shock. But they really didn't expect Jiang Tian to be so powerful. He was able to fight against a Dao artifact with his bare hands, which was equivalent to blocking an all-out attack from a soul formation grand cultivator with one hand. He was already a deity in the human world. Should we change the way we address Senior Tai Chu as grand cultivator? Qi Liqui's eyes widened as she murmured, "Master, you're awesome. You're invincible." As for Ao Jiao, she seemed to be stunned for a moment before her face turned red with excitement. She waved her fists and cheered for Jiang Tian. That's a Dao artifact. It's a quasi-Dao artifact, a Dao artifact again. What's this kid made of? Does he have an indestructible body? Wu Shujian was startled as if he had seen a demon. He was a genius from the Central Fertile Earth world. He was selected by the 100 Moons Academy and was nurtured with great care. He even managed to ascend to the top 20 of the war god list of the Immortal ruins. Before this, he had countless admirers and followers. He had always treated them well. Even though he knew that he was inferior to Qing Aojuan, Luo Changxing and the other monstrous geniuses, he still believed that he should be on the same level as them. And yet, compared to Jiang Tian, he felt extremely useless. He didn't even deserve to carry Jiang Tian's shoes. How could he possibly resist it? Yao Yu Fairy's cold face was also filled with astonishment. That was a Dao artifact. It had to be refined with the fruits of a soul formation grand cultivator's lifetime and contain the fragments of the grand Dao. The Dharma laws were above all other powers and the grand Dao was above the laws. No Dharma spells, divine powers, Dharma forms and nascent soul cultivators could compare to it. A full-powered attack was comparable to that of a soul formation grand cultivator. Besides, there were thousands of grand Dao and many Dharma laws. Any fragment of the grand Dao was extremely powerful, not to mention the fragment of the grand Dao of dimension contained in the air-piercing blade. It could be said that normal nascent soul cultivators were as vulnerable as tofu in front of the air-piercing blade. Even a half-soul formation cultivator wouldn't be able to withstand the attack of a Dao artifact. Chapter 1457. This lad is evil. Far away, the captain of the White Python Guards, Wu Huan, had an unprecedentedly serious expression. His eyes were filled with concern as he scanned the ancient demon abyss with his spiritual perception, not missing a single detail. The sect leaders of the 6 Hailan heavenly sects and even the leader of the Golden Crow Guards, Shenchang, were slightly moved. But besides being surprised, he was more excited. So powerful! I haven't seen such a powerful cultivator in a long time. This time, I will have a great battle with him to refine my Dao heart and stimulate my bloodline and cultivation. Perhaps it will help me reach the soul formation realm. Shen Chang rubbed his chin as he clenched his fists even tighter. His deep and dignified eyes burst forth with a fiery fighting spirit. On the battlefield, Ghost Wolf's face, which was as cold as ice, was also filled with panic. He exclaimed, "Brat, what kind of Dharma access is this?" "This is called the Vajra Shield, Iron Shirt, and the 13 Guardians." Jiang Tian casually made up a lie. He was very relaxed. At this moment he had passed the lightning tribulation, the third transformation of the divine disc, the phoenix golden core, the nascent soul, and his divine body were all perfect. He could finally give it his all. Next, he would suppress his opponent. Who cared about the gods and Buddhas in the sky? Everything would be swept away. Stop pretending to be mysterious. What 13 guardians? Ghost Wolf roared. His black cloak fluttered without wind and extended into the void. Wherever it passed, the space shattered and was annihilated. This space turned into endless spiritual power and infused into the air piercer. Rumble. On the surface of the air piercer that was flowing with colorful lights, a bright and beautiful Tao pattern suddenly appeared. This was the trace of the great Tao, which involved the secrets of space. It was very mysterious and profound. The Tao was natural, and it had the charm of the truth of heaven and earth. These traces of the great Tao suddenly condensed and turned into rays of light that pierced towards Jiang Tian. Every ray of light was incomparably resplendent and translucent, reflecting resplendent light. It was very dazzling and magnificent. But any nascent soul realm cultivator who saw it would feel a sense of fear. It was as if their souls were being cut into pieces. Great Tao. When Ghost Wolf sensed the danger of Jiang Tian, he finally revealed his trump card and played it on the table. A Dharma artifact was made by a soul formation grand cultivator with his supreme Dharma fruit, so it must contain the power of the grand Tao. Even if it was just a fragment, no nascent soul cultivator could resist it. The sparkling and translucent threads wrapped around Jiang Tian and pierced through his body. They were like colorful poisonous snakes, beautiful but deadly. Wherever these threads passed, even the void distorted. Countless black holes appeared in space. Some of these black holes were pitch black, while others were multicolored. They were even emptier than a vacuum. They belonged to the true meaning of nothingness. Not even space existed. Die. Ghost Wolf's eyes were merciless as he growled. He was very certain. This Tao artifact had been pushed to its limits. Even the great Tao fragment within had been blasted out. Kong Teichu was dead for sure. But who would have thought? Between Jiang Tian's fingers and palms, a blazing red light suddenly erupted. This red light was like a red crystal. It was crystal clear and didn't contain any impurities, but it was rolling like tides and fluffy like light. Overall, it looked like a flame. Each wisp of red light was formed from countless fiery red runes. When combined together, each wisp of red light was a law. The true fire of the red sparrow. At this time, Jiang Tian's red sparrow golden core had already formed the nascent soul. The true fire of the red sparrow was left on the divine plate, and it had been refined to the limit. Its power was incomparable to before. With the true fire of the red sparrow, it could create fire in the void and burn everything. It could refine the sky, burn the mountains, and boil the oceans. Crack, crack, crack. A series of crisp, cracking sounds were heard. Under Ghost Wolf's gaze, not only did the translucent threads fail to penetrate the red light of Jiang Tian's true fire of the red sparrow, they were also burned inch by inch and were completely destroyed. If a real soul formation cultivator fought me with his natal Dharma artifact, I might need to be careful. But you're just a half-soul formation cultivator. You want to fight me with a Dharma artifact left by your ancestor? You're way too weak. Jiang Tian looked at him with disdain. His law was a supreme divine-level law, comparable to the Grand Tao. And the Ghost Wolf's air-piercing blade only contained fragments of the Grand Tao. This Grand Tao was incomplete and only suitable for the Southgate Galaxy. It couldn't be used everywhere, which was equivalent to being broken on top of being broken. Such a Grand Tao was nothing in Jiang Tian's eyes. It didn't live up to its name at all. He reached out and countless true fire laws of the red sparrow appeared in his hand. Even the tiniest particles were runes. The runes formed a law, like a supreme scripture or a chapter of the Grand Tao. Rumble. Those laws formed the true fire of the Red Sparrow, which was extremely fierce and powerful, but it could be controlled by Jiang Tian. Wherever it went, it would move according to his will. It was quite mysterious. The vermilion bird True Fire spread out and swept up. It was like a fire dragon flying across the sky, like a fierce tiger pouncing out, bringing with it an exceptional killing aura. In the blink of an eye, the sparkling and translucent spatial light was burned into nothingness. Moreover, it followed the spatial threads and burned towards the ghost wolf. Oh no! Ghost wolf was startled. He was alarmed and panicked. He was like a fish in the sea and a crow in the sky. He immediately disappeared into the dimension, dragging the air-piercing blade with him. But this time, Jiang Tian wouldn't let him go no matter what. He would kill or capture him alive even if he had to go to heaven or hell. Submit or die. You only have two choices. Purple lightning flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes and pierced through the dimension. Then, the 10-foot divine disk behind him spun and the galaxy-like Kunpeng golden core shone brightly. He used the extreme speed of the Kunpeng and turned into a ray of light that pierced through the sky. Every step he took caused the dimension to tremble. In an instant he punched out 1,000 miles away. Bang! The dimension was shattered and the path of life and death was separated by Jiang Tian's punch. Ghost Wolf, who was hiding in the dimension, suddenly flew out with a shrill cry. His cheeks were smashed and the black feathers on his black cloak fluttered. He was like a black cannonball, crashing through 3 mountains. Kill! Rocks flew everywhere as Ghost Wolf soared into the air. His expression was extremely grim as he thrust his saber at Jiang Tian. The boundless might of the Dao artifact filled the area within a radius of 100 miles. Fragments of the great Dao that could destroy the dimension extended from the tip of the blade. An extremely thin dimensional tunnel appeared between him and Jiang Tian. Along the tunnel, colorful dimensional cracks extended in all directions like tentacles. Wherever the dimensional cracks reached, the sky was twisted and torn, the earth was shattered and the mountains were disintegrated. Even golden core demonic beasts were torn apart in an instant. This was another level of power that belonged to the great Tao. It was beyond the ordinary laws and nothing could stop it. But in the face of this destructive blade, Jiang Tian was still extremely calm and even a little contemptuous. He waved his fingers. A flaming long blade swept through everything like a volcanic eruption and the roar of the sea. The dimension within a radius of dozens of miles was burned to pieces, revealing a huge chaotic hole. Countless dimensional storms surged towards the absolute void. Heaven and earth began to collapse at this moment. The earth and mountains danced and the sky fell. Countless strands of heaven and earth yuan qi, with the void between the two of them as the center, surged and poured into the black hole like a dragon. It was as if the entire world was about to collapse at this moment. This was a kind of great destruction. Everything was dying and collapsing. The power of space tearing and twisting was unstoppable. Chapter 1458. Boom. When Jiang Tian's flaming blade hit the grand Dao fragment of the air-piercing blade, it was as if thousands of thunderbolts had struck. The entire ancient demon abyss shook violently, as if a devil's mouth was opening and closing, trying to swallow the sun, moon and stars. Everything within a few hundred miles of the core of the explosion was reduced to dust. Mountains, rivers, trees, beasts and even cultivators were all reduced to ashes. Luckily, Jiang Tian had purposely distanced himself from Ta Kong and the others who were watching the battle. Otherwise, they would have been killed by the shockwaves. Terrifying, this is too terrifying. The entire Yingzhou world was extremely vast and everyone felt the violent tremors. Countless cultivators were shocked and their hands were shaking. All golden core cultivators were like clay statues in front of the destructive power of the soul formation realm. They couldn't even withstand a single blow. I finally understand why soul formation realm cultivators are called grand cultivators. Ta Kong and Mingyi smiled wryly and looked envious. Such a disturbance can really change the world. He's invincible. Ao Jiao, Qi Liqui and even Long Shengnan and Yao Yu Fairy were speechless. Even Wu Shujian was sweating profusely. Even though he was on the God of War list, he belonged to the second tier after all. He was still incomparable to someone like Ghost Wolf, who had experienced hundreds of battles. He had only seen such power a few times in his entire life. The destructive power caused his heart to palpitate and his Dao heart to tremble. On the battlefield, Jiang Tian and Ghost Wolf separated immediately after the clash. Ghost Wolf and his air-piercing blade flew back dozens of miles. Half of his body was burnt black and there were spiderweb-like cracks. One of his arms exploded and only bones were left. What was more terrifying was that there were cracks on his air-piercing blade. It was very unstable and seemed to be about to collapse. A Dao treasure. This was a Dao treasure that had been refined by a soul formation grand cultivator and contained grand Dao fragments. Yet, it was almost destroyed by Jiang Tian's flaming blade. And Jiang Tian stood where he was and didn't move at all. He was like a pillar that supported the heavens and was unshakable. His clothes were spotless and his black hair was like a waterfall. He seemed to be calm and composed, and it was obvious that he possessed a crushing momentum. Run! At this moment, Ghost Wolf's heart was palpitating and his face was filled with horror. He was a half-soul formation cultivator who could defeat all the nascent soul cultivators, while Jiang Tian was only a nascent soul cultivator who was essentially a golden core cultivator. And yet, he had been crushed so miserably by Jiang Tian. At this moment, Ghost Wolf had no choice but to admit that his assassination mission had failed. In fact, the Ghost Wolf was best at sneak attacks, catching people off guard and catching them off guard. Only in this way could the weak defeat the strong and obtain a great victory with a small price. But now, it had evolved into a direct confrontation, and he no longer had any advantage. He unleashed the power of the Dark Crow bloodline and quickly disappeared into the void. In the blink of an eye, he had crossed thousands of miles and appeared above the Black Rock City. Trying to escape? You don't stand a chance. On the other hand, Jiang Tian did not hesitate to use the Kunpeng's extreme speed, transforming into a golden stream of light that chased after him. Golden Crow, White Python, Dark Crow, Third Guard. Cultivators of the 6 heavenly sects of the Hylon world, listen to my command. Far away, the leader of the Golden Crow Guards, Shin Chong, said coldly, Kong Teichu has the upper hand. Everyone, attack with all your strength and kill him. He had never thought that Jiang Tian would be so powerful. He was just an ant from the abandoned world, but he was so powerful. If he didn't get rid of him, he would be a great threat. Following his order, 60,000 cultivators above the Golden Core level and at least 300 nascent soul heavenly lords shot into the sky like supersonic fighter jets. With thunderous roars, they created turbulence in the air and flew towards the ancient demon abyss in an army formation. At this time, Jiang Tian had already severely injured Ghost Wolf several times above the Black Rock City. Every time Ghost Wolf escaped into space, Jiang Tian would always use the Kunpeng's extreme speed to chase after him. When he reappeared, Jiang Tian would punch and kick him, breaking his bones and tendons, causing him to bleed profusely. For a moment, Ghost Wolf screamed and blood stained the sky. Black feathers danced and exploded in the sky. Ghost Wolf was completely suppressed by Jiang Tian. How can this guy control such a terrifying dimension law? Ghost Wolf was terrified. His Dark Crow bloodline was certainly powerful, but it couldn't be compared to the Kunpeng bloodline. His dimension law was also much cruder. It was impossible for him to hurt or severely injure Jiang Tian. As for Ghost Wolf's counterattack, it was also useless. At this moment, Jiang Tian's Redbird Golden Core had finished the nascent soul tribulation, so he didn't need to hide any of his strength. There were too many methods and divine powers to restrain him. Whether it was the law of aged metal blocking it, the law of Vermilion Bird True Fire burning it, or the law of Taotai directly annihilating and devouring it, they were all successful. Kong Teichu, Ghost Wolf was covered in blood. His bones and tendons were broken and he even spat out pieces of his internal organs. At this moment he revealed his true form. The dark crow cloak and his body were one, and almost all of his feathers were falling off. This was the result of his Dharma power fading and his level falling. "Let me go!" He flapped his wings and screamed, trying to escape. He was both shocked and furious. As one of the top 3 assassins in the ruins of deity, he was proficient in dimension escape arts. He could even escape unscathed when facing the siege of a soul formation cultivator. He had never suffered such a loss. Besides, he was an abandoned person from a barren world. That place was very barren and there were no cultivation arts. It was like a remote village. "HM, I can let you go. Kneel down and surrender and form a divine soul contract with me." Jiang Tian's eyes were cold. He fought steadily and casually. Ghost Wolf couldn't escape at all. That's right. He flashed 1,000 miles away, but he was blocked by Jiang Tian and kicked back. Swish. In the end, Jiang Tian performed the sea calming ice god's law and completely froze and imprisoned an area of 100 miles. Ghost Wolf was completely restrained and couldn't move at all. "Surrender or die. This is your last chance." Jiang Tian snickered and gave the last ultimatum. At this moment, he only needed to control the dimension to tear apart Ghost Wolf's body and nascent soul. The captain of the Dark Crow Guards, a half-soul formation cultivator and the top assassin, Ghost Wolf, has been killed. This time, Senior Tai Chu will be famous in the ruins of deity. Senior Tai Chu is too powerful. He's going to turn the tables around. Ghost Wolf is going to surrender. While Qi Zhouyi, Swordmaster Outyen, Zhang Qingyang, and the rest of the authorities in Black Rock City who supported Jiang Tian were smiling upon seeing this. "I should be the one to say that. Kong Teichu, surrender or die. It's your choice. There's no third way." Gai Lang, on the other hand, laughed arrogantly. His eyes were extremely vicious as he roared, "Look around you. Look at the Yingzhou world. Look at how many cultivators and how many ships have arrived. I, Ghost Wolf, am an expert assassin. Of course, I know that even a lion will try its best to catch a rabbit. Do you think that if I didn't have enough backup, if I didn't have a chance to escape, I would take the risk to kill you? What cultivators and battleships?" Qi Zhouyi and the others were still confused. Suddenly, at first, they only saw an ancient battleship that was a few hundred feet long. But right after that, a second ship, a third ship, a fourth ship. They tore through space and shot out in a single file, and they appeared in the horizon in a dense and boundless manner, filling up everyone's field of vision. The densely packed interstellar battleships were like an iron barrier. They surrounded Blackrock City and even the entire ancient demon abyss. Chapter 1459. This battle formation was too shocking. Many ancient battleships flew across the sky at a speed 10 or 100 times faster than the speed of sound. Those ancient battleships were made of bronze, purple copper, gold, and crystals. They were a few thousand feet long and many times larger than aircraft carriers. There were countless runes and some obscure Dao patterns carved on them. They were indestructible and there were traces of swords and sabers left behind. It was apparent that they had survived hundreds of battles. There were countless generals and soldiers in armor standing on the battleships. Some of these cultivators were wearing silver python scale armor, some were wearing golden crow armor that looked like it was made of gold, and some were wearing black robes and bird head masks. Their capes fluttered in the wind, and their horns were ferocious. Almost all of them were at the Golden Core realm, and their eyes were filled with bloodthirst. Many powerful energies rushed to the front of the battleships. They were the sect masters and elders of the 6 heavenly sects from the Hylon world. Each of them was a nascent soul cultivator, and there were more than 300 of them. More than 300 nascent soul heavenly lords and essence chi surged like an ocean. They flashed across the sky and tore the sky apart. Even the sky seemed to be shaking, as if it were about to collapse. The entire Yingzhou world was shaking violently. Mountains collapsed and rivers flowed. In countless cities, ordinary people and cultivators also looked up at the sky. This. Qi Zhouyi stood above Blackstone City and was speechless, as if he had seen a demon. But that wasn't the end. In the end, a giant battleship 10,000 feet long appeared in the sky. The warship was like an enormous golden crow, seemingly forged from black gilt. Light flickered and it was sturdy to the extreme. Its enormous wings stretched across the sky, and each feather was a warehouse. Inside were supreme cultivators overseeing them. There were at least tens of thousands of them. The most eye-catching part was the bow of the ship. It was like the head of a ferocious bird. It opened its giant mouth and there were fangs spewing out fire, as if it could burn the sky. When they saw the giant ship, Qi Jiui and many other incontinent cultivators, including Zhang Qingyang and Ao Tian Swordmaster, who were protecting Jiang Tian, lost their composure. They were terrified and almost turned into statues. That's the symbol of the Golden Crow Guard. The personal guards of the ruins Emperor Palace, as well as the White Python and Dark Crow Guards, have been mobilized in full force. How could this be? I shut down all the teleportation arrays. How did they get in? Furthermore, I've sent cultivators to monitor the various strategic locations. Yet no one noticed such a large-scale invasion. Qi Jiui's entire body was trembling. Even his teeth were chattering. Father, I heard that they have developed a kind of heaven-deceiving formation rune. The warship can be hidden in space, and it is impossible to detect it. It seems like it has already been used on these three armies. Qi Liqui flew over and stood behind Qi Jiui. Her beautiful face was stern, and her battle intent was boiling. She was ready to fight at any moment. Her Dharma idol burst forth, and a huge ancient parasol tree appeared. On it, there was a fire phoenix burning the sky. It let out a long cry, and its momentum was astonishing. There was nothing much to say. A great battle was unavoidable. They were already close to Jiang Tian. This was something that the ruins of immortality could not tolerate. It would be a bloody suppression, like a warning to others. Tens of thousands of golden core cultivators and 300 nascent soul heavenly lords. There are also 2 quasi-mighty half-step soul formation cultivators. At this moment, Long Pejuan, Long Shengnan, and the others had just rushed out of the ancient demon abyss. When they saw this scene, their faces turned pale, as though they had seen demons. Dark Crow Guards, White Python Guards, Golden Crow Guards. They were the elite army under the direct command of the ruins Emperor Palace. They were high and mighty, looking down on the galaxy. They suppressed the worlds of Alpha Centauri and were invincible. No faction could stop them. Any one of them could easily flatten a second-grade dimensional world. What black dragon sect? What violent demonic beasts? They were nothing in front of them. And now, the 3 armies had joined forces to descend to the lower world to kill Jiang Tian. This was unprecedented. Ao Jiao was also pale with fright. Despair flashed in her eyes. She gritted her teeth and said, "Senior Grand Primordium is our last hope. Let's go together and open a bloody path for Senior Grand Primordium to leave. At least there is a glimmer of hope. However, I hope that Senior Grand Primordium will avenge us when he is strong enough." Ao Jiao, don't be so nervous. Bai Zhe flicked his sleeves and looked at her with disdain. Master didn't even use 1/10 of his power. What bullshit Golden Crow Guards? They are just a bunch of birdmen. Capture them and eat them. So many golden cores. Damn it. It's enough for me to eat for a few years. I can store them. The large black dog's saliva was dripping down, his eyes filled with excitement. Lunatics. A bunch of lunatics. Long Shengnen mocked them hysterically. This is the personal army of the ruins Emperor Palace. Even the top nascent soul cultivators are no match for Shunchang and Wu Huan. Not to mention, there are many ancient ships and large-scale offensive Dharma artifacts. A single cultivator will never be able to fight against a large-scale cultivator army. Even if you are a soul formation cultivator, they can exhaust you to death. Besides, all of them are natives of the Southgate star system. They followed the ruins emperor to occupy the ruins of immortality tens of thousands of years ago. Their cultivation techniques are compatible with this world and perfectly compatible with the laws and great Tao. They are not like us, who wander the universe and change the environment. So, Their cultivation techniques are better. Their power is 10 times or 100 times stronger than the same level of cultivation. It's not something that we, the descendants of the ancient earth and immortal lands, can compare to. Kong Teichu will definitely die this time. Her eyes were firm, as if Jiang Tian was already a dead man. There was no chance of him turning the tables. Retreat. Get out of the battlefield. Wu Shujian was frightened. He pulled Fairy Yao Yu and retreated silently, distancing themselves from Jiang Tian and the others. 3 half-step soul formation generals, 300 nascent soul heavenly lords, tens of thousands of golden core cultivators and hundreds of ancient ships were enough to destroy this continent. Even if you were a soul formation cultivator, you couldn't stop them from pouncing on you like locusts. There were too many of them, and they weren't locusts. Each of them was very powerful. It was rare for the 3 guards to be mobilized. Clearly, the Ruins Emperor's palace was determined to kill. Next, it would be an indiscriminate attack. The entire Blackrock City, the ancient demon abyss, and even half of the Ingzhou world would be reduced to a wasteland. Kong Teichu, kneel and submit. At that moment, Spectral Wolf had been completely locked down by Jiang Tian's sea-calming ice god laws. However, he still seemed to have something to rely on as he roared smugly. If you know what's good for you and let me go, I might give you a chance. I will plead for you in the Ruins Emperor's palace and spare your wretched life. I will make you the highest-ranking servant and follower of the Ruins Emperor. I stand by my words. No one can resist the Ruins Emperor. Sheng Emperor Zhongli can't, Ao Emperor Wu Chang can't. You can't either. Now, do you understand why I said that? The key to being human is to recognize your own strength. Don't have any fantasies or unrealistic thoughts. You are ultimately a human. You are ultimately an ant. And the Ruins Emperor is too powerful. His subordinates are too strong and too many. Chapter 1460. Sizzle. 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 Beams of light were shot from the giant ships towards Jiang Tian. That was a kind of Dharma law shot out by a large true artifact. It was as thick as a pillar and was extremely dangerous. It could hurt soul formation grand cultivators and kill nascent soul heavenly lords. Jiang Tian spread out the forbidden area and disappeared into the void like a flickering light. Are you scared? Ghost Wolf snickered and also flashed into the sky, taking the chance to escape. As for the place where Jiang Tian was just now, when the beam of light shot over, it instantly blasted out numerous pitch black holes. A terrifying spatial collapse appeared, and it was completely reduced to nothingness. The moment they discovered that the Golden Crow army and the other 3 guards were attacking, under Qi Jiui's orders, the Black Rock City's many giant guardian formations had already been activated like blooming lotus flowers. Azure light filled the sky, black light flashed, divine beasts roared and fiery phoenixes soared to the sky. Each of them represented a powerful nascent soul dharma array that could withstand the attacks of nascent soul cultivators and soul formation cultivators. In the end, 18 layers of dharma arrays were activated and covered the Black Rock City like colorful shields. Those 18 layers of dharma arrays were said to be impregnable. They had been built by top array grandmasters with countless heavenly treasures. They were able to guard the pass. For thousands of years, the fierce beasts in the ancient demon abyss hadn't been able to get out. They had been suppressed and trapped by those powerful dharma arrays. But then, under the bright beams of light, the 18 layers of light barriers were instantly torn apart and pierced through like pieces of paper. Many strange phenomena let out cries of unwillingness before they were destroyed. The city walls and fortresses that could withstand the continuous attacks of a golden core cultivator crumbled like sand sculptures that had been struck by a heavy hammer. They were reduced to dust and nothingness. Black Rock City, which was like the great wall surrounding the ancient demon abyss, was instantly torn apart. The beams of light didn't stop after destroying the Black Rock City. They penetrated 1,000 miles into the ground, leaving many terrifying abysses and gullies, as if they were going to penetrate the entire continent. At that moment, it was as if huge suns were exploding one after another. Blinding light drowned out everything within a radius of 500 kilometers, making the sky as bright as day. It was resplendent and dazzling. Countless cultivators and mortals from the Yingzhou continent, both inside and outside of the Black Rock City, disappeared from the world before they could even let out a scream. Even golden core cultivators couldn't withstand it for more than a second. Their bodies, golden cores and divine souls were completely destroyed. Rumble. Without wasting any time, countless beams of light shot out from the ship, indiscriminately covering a radius of 1,000 li around Jiangtian, interweaving with each other and leaving no room for escape. This was a gorgeous, beautiful, and extremely tragic scene. Some of the cultivators who were lucky enough to survive were terrified. They tried to escape on their flying swords, ships, chariots, cloud towers, and other flying devices, but they could not get out at all. They were like moths flying into a flame. The moment they came into contact with the light beam, they exploded one after another, turning into a rain of light that scattered down like fireworks blooming in the air. Every time the light beam exploded, countless people would die. Flying swords would turn into molten steel, chariots would turn into ash, flesh and blood would dry up. Everything would turn into ash and smoke. This is a complete annihilation. The ruins of immortality is too ruthless. Qi Jiui had the dark parasol divine tree protecting him, allowing him to withstand the light beam's attack. He was only covered in dust and was not seriously injured. But when he came to his senses and saw the countless cultivators of the Yingzhou continent being destroyed and his Dao orthodoxy about to be severed, he could not help but feel defeated. He fell to the ground and was on the brink of tears. Ruins of immortality. Ruins Emperor, you old dog. Today, if the living beings of the Yingzhou continent aren't wiped out, we'll fight you to the end. Qi Liqui roared tragically as tears of blood flowed down his face. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. It was a massacre. The 3 guards of the ruins Emperor's palace were merciless to the extreme. They were haughty and arrogant, like gods that wanted to crush ants. There was no communication at all and they went straight for extermination. Now you know the consequences of resisting the ruins of immortality. In the crowd, Long Xingnan shouted coldly with a look of mockery. Kong Techu Qi Jiui, I've said it before. You have no right to resist. Now, you finally understand how powerful the ruins of immortality are. The number 1 heavens sect of the desert world, the Celestial Peak sect, had 100,000 cultivators and a Dao field spanning 500 kilometers. They even had 5 half-step soul formation cultivators. Yet, a single talisman decree from the ruins Emperor crushed their 100,000 feet tall peaks. Their Dao field sank 100 kilometers into the ground, and their 100,000 disciples were reduced to meat paste. Not a single one was left. Kong Techu, do you think we are all cowards? Do you think you are the only hero? You are wrong. In this world, judging the situation, clearly recognizing the strength of others, and bowing to absolute power is wisdom. Acting rashly for a moment will only consign you to eternal damnation. Bitch, you are merely a defeated opponent. You are just a human pet. Shut up. If you dare spout any more nonsense, I'll kill you. The large black dog growled in frustration as he sent her flying with a swipe of his paw. He had the bloodline of the purple gold true dragon. In fact, his bloodline was much more powerful than the bloodlines of Bai Zhe, Ao Jiao, Long Pejuan, Qi Liqui, and Ta Kong. He was hit by the light beam 3 times, but he was only charred black. He was sent flying, but he did not suffer any heavy injuries. However, the others might not be so lucky. Bai Zhe's arm was broken. He was in so much pain that his face turned pale. Ao Jiao spat out blood. Her chest caved in, almost injuring her core. Her void-stepping technique was extremely fast. She barely dodged, but she was also in a very sorry state. Her clothes were burnt. Long Pejuan was the most miserable. This peerless ferocious demon who had once dominated the Yingzhou, North Sea, Dragon Gate, and Penglai world, forcing many sects and clans to bow their heads. He was invincible and possessed the bloodline of the primordial Tyrannosaurus dragon. However, his body was smashed to pieces and he died. After a wave of attacks, many battleships stopped firing. They stretched across the sky, forming an oval-shaped encirclement that surrounded Qi and half of Black Rock City in the middle. After thousands of attacks from the god-killing light cannons, Kong Teichu will definitely die, even if he escapes into other dimensions. Meanwhile, Ghost Wolf had already appeared on one of the battleships of the Dark Crow Guards. He was still frightened and chuckled. That black battleship was 1,000 feet long. It seemed to be equipped with a dimensional array. It appeared and disappeared from time to time. Space ripples were strong and it could hide in another dimension at any time. What? Has Senior Taichu died? Everyone was frightened. They finally realized that the god-killing light cannons were a super true artifact that could go beyond the limits of dimensions and kill soul formation overlords. Of course he died. He's just an ant in the lower worlds. That true artifact of mass destruction has killed dozens of soul formation cultivators. How could Kong Teichu resist it? Wu Huan, the commander of the White Python Guards, snickered with disdain. Congratulations, Commander Xin Chang, Commander Wu Huan, Commander Ghost Wolf, and the Divine Generals. You've won the operation in the lower worlds and killed Kong Teichu. I'm sure Prince Qiuming will reward you handsomely. Jing Shimin, the sect master of the Dao-seeking sect, one of the 6 heavenly sects, stood on his sword with his sleeves fluttering in the wind. His face was handsome and he seemed to be a top nascent soul cultivator. Right then, he bowed and prayed respectfully in front of the commanders of the 3 guards, as if he were their grandchildren. Kong Teichu might be talented, but he's from a remote and desolate planet after all. How can he compare to the South Gate 2 stars? A beautiful woman in a palace dress said with a smile. Her name was Shi Zhenxiang, the sect master of the heavenly incense sect in the lower worlds. She was famous for her beauty and her power. She went to the lower worlds under Prince Qiuming's order to kill Jiang Tian with the 3 guards. Even though she was looking down on Jiang Tian, her heart was filled with fear and relief. Kong Teichu was too evil. The best way to deal with him was to use powerful true artifacts to kill him from afar. Nobody was confident of winning in a head-on clash. Chapter 1461. Kong Teichu is quite talented, but he's too arrogant. In the end, it cost Qingqing's life. It's no wonder. He's an abandoned person from the wasteland. I heard that he came from the desolate solar system. His strength is invincible in that backward wasteland. He has never encountered any setbacks along the way, so of course he has developed an arrogant personality. How would he know the vastness of the universe and the cosmos? Sigh. It seems like cultivation isn't as simple as a smooth path. A sword is sharpened by grinding. Kong Teichu is a bad example. Some of the sect masters and elders of the other heavenly sects mocked. Some were indifferent and arrogant, some gloated, some had ulterior motives, and some were puzzled. What a pity! Prince Qiuming has given the kill order. We can only kill him instantly. Shen Chang, the captain of the Golden Crow Guards, scanned the void with his divine consciousness and shook his head regretfully. Otherwise, I would like to spar with this kid with his talent. A life-and-death battle can temper my cultivation, stabilize my Dao heart, and elevate it to the limit. Maybe he can even help me break through to the soul formation realm. Wu Huan raised his hand and pointed at Bai Zai, Ao Jiao, and Qi Liqui as if he was looking at ants. He said coldly, you were originally the subjects of the Ruins Emperor. You should be loyal to him, but you were bewitched by an ant from the lower world. You degenerated and joined him to betray the Ruins Emperor. Your sins are unforgivable. Now, surrender and follow me to the Ruins Emperor's palace to receive your punishment. If you come to your senses and repent sincerely, I will speak to the Ruins Emperor's palace. I will speak up for you in the Ruins Emperor's palace. If Prince Qiuming shows mercy, you can be the lowest class of slaves. At the very least, you will have a chance of survival. His tone was filled with incomparable arrogance, as if a god had bestowed him with a blessing. Making the princess and emperor of the lower realm his servant was already a great favor. Well, Qi Jui hesitated and looked troubled. Although he thought highly of Jiang Tian, it was only because of Jiang Tian's growth, not because of his current strength. If Jiang Tian was given a century or even 10 years, Jiang Tian's talent was superb. Coupled with his diligent cultivation, he naturally had the right to wrestle with the ruins' emperor. However, he never expected the upper realm to secretly set up a teleportation array in this world, secretly transporting the 3 guards of the ruins' emperor's palace and the 6 High-Lan heavenly sects over. This was equivalent to Jiang Tian being strangled by a group of giants when he was still a baby in swaddling clothes. Father, do we have a choice? Haven't we been the lowest level of servants all these years? Haven't the Dragon Gate and the Ingzhou world been bullied enough by them? Qi Liqui wept blood and cried like a cuckoo. However, her words were resounding, flickering with an unyielding fighting spirit. Fight. Even if they had to fight to the last person to inherit the last wish of the Grand Primordium. The demon race will never be slaves. Ao Jiao's beautiful eyes were red. Her gaze was murderous and filled with boundless determination. Her flood dragon bloodline erupted as her body rumbled. An aura surged into the sky as a vitality flood dragon coiled behind her. She wanted to fight to the death with her opponent. Fight. Fight. Freedom is more precious than life. Only by fighting can we obtain a chance of survival. We don't fear death. We won't be slaves. Ta Kong, Mingyi, Bai Zhe, and even the most cowardly black dog roared in unison. They took a step forward as their fighting spirit was extremely vigorous. It was as if they could hold back 10,000 men alone. Stubborn. I think you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. The White Python guard Wu Huan snorted coldly. His gaze was ferocious and bloodthirsty as he pointed his finger. At that moment, hundreds of battleships appeared behind him. If the large-scale god-vanquishing true weapons were to be activated, they would instantly be reduced to ashes. However, he preferred to kill them personally. Seeing their blood splattered, their flesh and blood splattered, and their souls wailing in pain gave him an indescribable sense of satisfaction. It was just like how some assassins preferred to kill people with cold weapons just to experience the wonderful feeling of the blade cutting into their skin. Boom! As Wu Huan pointed his finger, a huge white python that was 10,000 feet long opened its bloody mouth like a small mountain and pounced towards everyone. At that moment, no one could stop it. No one dared to stop it. Wu Huan has the bloodline of the sky-swallowing white python and is half a step away from the soul formation stage. His sky-swallowing laws are extremely condensed and magnificent. They can only die regretfully. Countless incontinent cultivators watched this scene from afar and wailed in their hearts. They lowered their heads in despair and shame. More people turned their heads away, unwilling to watch this scene. Once Qi Liqui, Ao Jiao and the others died, it meant that the Dragon Gate, Incontinent and other worlds fell into the hands of the ruins of deity again. It meant that the seeds of resistance and the hope of freedom were all extinguished. Qi Liqui, Ao Jiao, Ta Kong, Mingyi, Bai Zhe, and the big black dog were not afraid at all. Instead, they shouted angrily and unleashed their divine powers and dharma forms, rushing towards the sky-swallowing white python. But in the eyes of everyone, they were so small in front of the dharma forms that were 10,000 feet long. They were like chickens in front of Mount Tai, hitting a rock with an egg. They were like moths flying into a flame. There was no other outcome other than being destroyed. It was tragic and tragic. Wu Huan, the head of the White Python Guards, was half a step away from the soul formation stage. He was a terrifying existence that could shake the ruins of deity with a stomp of his feet. Even the elites on the God of War list would have to avoid him and not dare to fight him head-on. Qi Liqui and the others were just courting death by rushing up. They just wanted to die a less ugly death. Senior, thank you for saving the Ao family and the Dragon Gate world from disaster. It's a pity that I can't fight alongside you in this life. I'm still willing to follow in your footsteps in my next life and fight the world again. Ao Jiao's tall and slender body was surrounded by mighty dragons. Her aura surged as she rushed towards the sky-swallowing white python. Her hair fluttered in the wind and her face was beautiful. At this moment, she looked very sad and beautiful. Crystalline tears of blood were like agates and rubies, sprinkling in the air. She had never cried since she was sensible. She did not cry when her father died in battle. She did not cry when the world fell. She did not cry when she was sold as a human cauldron. But at this moment she was crying. Why was the world so unfair? Why did good people always die so quickly? He, Kang Taechu, was like a shining star. He went against the heavens and fought for justice. He fought to save all the worlds and faced the strong cultivators of the ruins of deity with his own strength. But now he had fallen. He had died and his Tao had disappeared. At this moment, countless cultivators of Hai Lan and the ruins of deity laughed wildly. Countless cultivators of Hai Lan and the lower worlds clenched their fists and gritted their teeth with tears in their eyes. Countless onlookers shook their heads in disdain. Just as the sky-swallowing white python was about to swallow everyone. Suddenly, a translucent finger appeared out of nowhere. The finger stretched across the sky, pressing down the head of the giant python that could swallow the heavens and swallow the earth. It stopped in front of Ao Jiao, unable to move an inch forward. Enough! You killed civilians in my world, destroyed cities, killed my old servant Long Pajuan, and now you want to kill my disciples. Do you think I, Kang Taechu, am easy to bully? A calm and cold voice resounded in the sky. Hearing this, Ao Jiao's body trembled. She looked back and saw a young man covered in blood standing next to her with one hand behind his back. The young man's clothes were torn, revealing a chest that was as crystalline as a jade leopard and full of explosive power. Wounds that were deep to the bone covered his body. There were also rays of law light lingering around his body. Those rays of light were formed by countless small light runes. The power of law was circulating continuously, as if it was going to crack his body and explode. At this moment, his figure was very miserable and disheveled. But in Ao Jiao's eyes, he was so tall, even taller than a 10,000-foot tall mountain. He firmly protected her under his wings and did not hurt her at all. He was like a lone wolf fighting a tiger and a lion. Although he was seriously injured, his aura was not weaker and was still full of killing intent. It was Jiang Tian. Chapter 1462. Senior. Ao Jiao's voice was dry and she couldn't believe it. That was the god-destroying light cannon. It could easily kill a nascent soul heavenly lord and severely injure a soul formation grand cultivator. It could even penetrate dimensions and destroy dimensional laws. And yet, Jiang Tian had survived. At this moment, Qi Jioi and Qi Liqui widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. Even Long Xingnan cried out in surprise. He's only a nascent soul cultivator. Even though he doesn't have a nascent soul golden core, defeating a half-soul formation cultivator is already his limit. How could he withstand the attack of the god-destroying light cannon? He's not human. Has the information been wrong? He's not a guest from Earth at all. He's a divine fetus from the central galaxy in the outer space. Seeing this, Wu Shujian, who had retreated to the back to watch, was so frightened that he almost fell from the high school. Fairy Yao Yu's face turned pale as well. Her impression of Ling Yun was refreshed once again. What was the god-destroying light cannon? For example, it was like a nuclear weapon in this world. It was the ultimate weapon that could kill a soul formation overlord. Even the sword god of the Emperor Palace would have to avoid it. What was Jiang Tian? He was a nascent soul cultivator and a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator. He could suppress a half-soul formation cultivator, which was equivalent to a transcendent grandmaster on Earth. A transcendent grandmaster could only die in front of a nuclear weapon. Everyone's mind was in a mess. They did not expect that Jiang Tian could survive. Not even the god-destroying light cannon can kill him. Wu Huan stopped his Dharma form and was shocked. It was already inconceivable that Jiang Tian could withstand the god-destroying light cannon, but with such a horrifying indiscriminate attack, he would definitely be severely injured, and his battle prowess would drop drastically. How could he resist his Dharma form under such circumstances? Even though he hadn't used all his strength, it was enough to destroy a mountain and kill all life within a few hundred miles. Evil, it's too evil. Even Shun Chang couldn't stay calm. Ghost Wolf was even more cautious. He sent a message to the Dark Crow guards with his immortal will. That was a tough nut to crack. Today, all of you will die here. Jiang Tian's gaze swept across the broken walls, scorched earth, and flames below. A cold light burst out from his eyes as a raging fury slowly filled his heart. Using battle to nurture battle and excavating all resources naturally had its benefits. Attacking and defending in an orderly manner, fighting steadily and surely. However, there was one unavoidable drawback, and that was that the battlefield would always be within one's own territory, and it was easy for the cultivators and commoners there to be affected. But Jiang Tian was not an invader. Instead, he was a liberator. For example, Qi Jui, Ao Feng, Takung, Mingyi, and the other cultivators that followed him were loyal, brave, and skilled in battle. They were willing to go through fire and water for Jiang Tian. To a certain extent, Jiang Tian already regarded the cultivators and mortals here as his own people. They supported him and he had to protect them. But now the Yingzhou world was devastated. Countless cultivators and mortals had died. This was a disaster and it was too tragic. Kang Teichu, you'd better give up and surrender. There are 100,000 cultivators, as many as the Golden Core cultivators and 300 nascent soul cultivators. Do you think you can escape? A heavenly sect elder from the aquamarine world came out to persuade him to surrender. He was a nascent soul cultivator and thought highly of himself. His eyes were full of disdain as if he was looking at an ant. Noisy! Jiang Tian flicked his finger. No one saw clearly what kind of abijna Jiang Tian had unleashed. The elder didn't even have time to scream before his body exploded and turned into a rain of flesh. Blood filled the sky and even his nascent soul was shattered into countless pieces. Everyone was shocked, and their hair stood on end. They all kept silent. Killing a nascent soul cultivator with a finger. This brat's strength was too strong. You're just a nascent soul cultivator. I, Kang Teichu, have killed countless of you. It's not your turn to be presumptuous here. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold and he said coldly, Everyone, you're all going to die here today. You think you can kill all of us here with just you alone? Have you eaten too many elixirs? Do you know that I can kill you with one hand? Wu Huan was still calm. He glanced at Jiang Tian and sneered. No matter how powerful he is, he's just a golden core cultivator after all. He can only kill normal nascent soul cultivators, but he's still incomparable to a real half-soul formation cultivator. A divine general from the White Python Guards said coldly. He rubbed his fists and was eager to fight. In fact, even though Jiang Tian had just been hit by the god-destroying light cannons, he was still alive and could kill a nascent soul heavenly lord with one finger. He had displayed shocking strength. However, in the eyes of many people, Jiang Tian was still a soft persimmon that was easy to bully. After all, he must have been severely injured after being hit by such a terrifying light cannon. He wouldn't be able to hold on for long, so they should kill him while he was weak. By then, Prince Qiuming would definitely reward them handsomely. There were quite a few cultivators who had the same idea. Kang Teichu, you're a talent. If you're loyal, I can help you to ask the Emperor's palace not to punish you. I can even let you join the Dark Crow Guards and make you a commander or deputy guard captain. Prince Qiuming is gathering his forces. He's always cherished talents. Ghost Wolf persuaded. Ao Jiao, leave first. Let me fight. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold and his face was full of killing intent. Shifting stars. Go. In the next moment, a 10-foot divine disc appeared behind Jiang Tian before Ao Jiao and the others could react. It spun in a dazzling light and shook 100 miles. He directly sent Ao Jiao, Qi Liqui, and the others thousands of miles away. It was a powerful divine power that could only be used when one reached the soul formation stage. It used the power of the constellations to move the space and achieve long-distance teleportation. At the moment, Jiang Tian was only controlling the entire divine disk, and it consumed a lot of his power. His energy seemed to have dropped a little. Everyone, those who have nothing to do with this, please leave. Jiang Tian's divine disk spun and the light became brighter, enveloping him. His dantian let out a thunderous roar and his body shone like the sun. I can finally use my full strength and twist your heads off. Around his body, layers of flames overlaid and gushed out, turning into raging flames. His aura rose crazily, surging like a bull, as if a supreme divine general had returned to the 9 heavens. Master. Senior. Ta Kong, Mingi, Bai Zhe, Blackie and Chiliqui as well as Ao Jiao and Chiliqui were already outside the army, but they were extremely worried about Jiang Tian at the moment. They yelled and rushed forward, wanting to help Jiang Tian. However, Jiang Tian had already made his move. Before he finished speaking, his body swayed and he used the Kuan Peng extreme speed. His speed reached the peak and he rushed towards Wu Huan at the speed of light. Bastard, you're the first. In the sky, a dazzling golden light pierced through the sky, leaving a dazzling golden line that was 1,000 miles long. It was so fast that the naked eye couldn't catch it. After the light shot out, the space where Jiang Tian was just now shattered into pieces. There was a terrifying sound of space collapsing that sounded like the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. Chapter 1463. It's useless. We are the immortals, heavenly officials, and heavenly generals of the ruins Emperor's Palace. We have either reached the soul formation realm or have the combat power of a soul formation realm cultivator. The power of the immortals from the upper world is something you can never imagine. Wu Huan's mocking voice was like a giant python's roar or a thunderous roar that came from the 9 heavens. There's no need for you to do it. I'll kill him. The 3rd heavenly general of the White Python Guards, a cultivator half a step into the soul formation realm, Mengya, wearing python scale armor, charged into the 9 heavens. He flew above Jiang Tian and stomped down like he was stepping on an ant. He wanted to stomp Jiang Tian to death. His eyes were full of mockery and mockery. He wanted to stomp Jiang Tian to death. The meaning of humiliation in this was extremely deep and strong. At this moment, countless cultivators from the Yin continent and Northern Sea clenched their fists tightly, their eyes wide open. Even the violent demon beasts in the ancient demon abyss were beating their chests angrily, roaring at the sky with anger. They had fought with the human cultivators of this world for a place to live. At this moment, everyone had a common enemy and could not wait for Mengya to die. Mengya is going to kill him. General Mengya is picking on soft persimmons to bully. At this moment, the army of 100,000 cultivators from the ruins of immortality was mocking him. Mengya was once a heavenly sect Zongzi. He was extremely talented, and in his era, he was ranked 11th on the God of War list. He suppressed many of his peers and awed an entire era. Now, he was ranked 23rd among the 99 heavenly generals of the ruins Emperor's Palace. Mengya's stomp seemed reckless and humiliating, but he did not hold back at all. With this stomp, nomological laws roared and essence chi boiled, forming a giant foot that was 1,000 feet long. It smashed down like a mountain, piercing through the clouds and tearing the sky apart, as though it could sink the continent and crush everything. Rumble. Just as Wu Huan and Ghost Wolf were smiling mockingly, Ao Jiao, Chi Joey, and the rest were pale with fright, and Mengya was about to be rewarded, boom! A power akin to the eruption of a volcano suddenly exploded at the foot of the vast cliff. This power contained the supreme laws of the vermilion bird, and it surged into the heavens like red flames. It was so vast, surging, and scorching that it was as if thousands of nuclear weapons had exploded at the same time. A vast cliff howled miserably as he retreated in midair. However, it was already over. Divine blood scattered across the sky, and one of his legs was blasted apart. His entire body was scorched black and cracked open. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. The elders and sect masters of the 6 heavenly sects of the below world all turned pale. Even Wu Huan, Gui Lang, and Shun Chang, the 3 supreme giants, were shocked. They all knew that Kong Teichu was very strong. However, he had already been shot several times by the god-vanquishing light cannons and was clearly severely wounded. Even so, he was still able to push back a half-step soul formation stage cultivator. You want to step on me? Do you think I'm easy to bully? Jiang Tian's battle intent surged like a tide. The 30-foot bright divine disc spun rapidly, and the Kunping used its extreme speed to close in. He waved his fingers and slashed horizontally. The gunmetal divine blade. It was completely formed by Dharma laws. Every tiny grain of gunmetal was a rune that formed a chapter of Dharma laws. It was as sharp as a blade. Even though Vast Cliff activated the Dharma form of the sky-swallowing giant python, burned his golden core, and the essence chi around him was boiling like an ocean, forming many python scales to block the attack and even exploding a few protection true artifacts, he still couldn't stop Jiang Tian's slash. His protective light shields cracked, his scales turned into dust, and his armor crumbled. The surging saber light cut into his body, creating deep cuts that exposed his bones. In the blink of an eye, he was about to be cut in half, and his body and soul would be destroyed. Brother Vast Cliff, let me help you. A tall immortal general, who was also wearing a white python scale armor and emitting a bloodthirsty and cold aura, let out a thunderous roar. He held two wheel-like axes in his hands and turned into a silver beam of light, blocking in front of Jiang Tian's blade light. He was Long Xian, one of the 9 divine generals of the White Python Guards and ranked 40 among them. And yet, Jiang Tian didn't hold back his power at all. He used the supreme Dharma laws of gunmetal, which was comparable to normal Grand Daoist. How powerful was that? It was equivalent to an attack from a soul formation cultivator. How could 2 divine generals who were only half a step away from the divine transformation stage stop them? Not only did Jiang Tian use the most powerful power of the gunmetal immortal body, he also used divine Dharma laws that could be used anywhere in the universe. It wasn't a limited Dharma law that could only be used in a galaxy like theirs. Poof! Long Xian spurted out blood. He couldn't withstand it at all and kept falling back. His body was also cut by the blade aura formed by the Dharma laws of gunmetal. He's too powerful. Many people frowned. 2 divine generals at the half-soul formation level couldn't even resist Kong Teichu's slash. More importantly, Jiang Tian's blade aura didn't stop at all. They would be killed in the next second. Count me in. Kill. Before he finished speaking, streaks of golden light, white light, and silver light that pierced through the heavens and earth soared into the sky one after another. In the end, there were 8 divine generals in total, including Mangya who attacked at the beginning. Other than Wu Huan, the divine generals of the White Python Guards all attacked. Boom! 8 divine generals at the half-soul formation level attacked at the same time. How powerful were they? They were surrounded by different laws. Wind, lightning, earth, fire, metal, darkness. They were vast and surged boundlessly, seething like burning mountains and boiling seas, and they crushed expanse after expanse of space. Even an area of 500 kilometers was unable to endure the enormous pressure, causing the ground to collapse while cities were transformed into powder. In the end, 8 dazzling lights converged into a gray pillar of chaotic light, and it actually possessed the aura of the beginning of the primordial era. They often fought together. When they joined forces, they were even more powerful than ordinary half-soul formation level cultivators. They were comparable to an attack from a real soul formation level cultivator. The gray light pillar was 1,000 feet long. It crossed the sky and blocked Jiang Tian's blade aura with the golden law, preventing Jiang Tian from slashing it. Crack, crack. The sky cracked and thunder exploded. What was shocking was that the chaotic light pillar pushed Jiang Tian's golden gung divine blade back 1,000 feet. Interesting. Jiang Tian was surprised. Although he looked like an ordinary person, it was the result of returning to his original state. In fact, he was using the golden gung immortal body. Jiang Tian didn't expect the 8 half-soul formation level cultivators to be able to simulate the aura of chaos and block his slash. Of course, they still couldn't stop Jiang Tian if he used all his divine body and Dharma laws. But that was already very rare. It showed that the Ruins Emperor's Palace and the 9 guards were indeed powerful. Ha! Kong Teichu, that's all you've got? A divine general yelled. Right, Kong Teichu, you can't even defeat the 8 of us. You want to be an enemy of the ruins of deity? Besides, our chief guard Wu Huan hasn't done anything yet. If he does, you'll be swallowed immediately and turned into blood. Divine General Long Xian also sneered. Kong Teichu, surrender and beg for mercy. You're a lowly abandoned person. Surrendering is your only way out. Otherwise, you'll die. Mangya became smug again after getting out of danger. Threats and mockery. At this moment, Qi Jui, Zhang Qingyang, Sword Honorable Ao Tian, and the others were all shocked when they saw this scene. They were worried about Jiang Tian and their future. Those divine generals of the White Python Guards were already on par with Jiang Tian. The most powerful chief guard, Wu Huan, hadn't done anything, and the more powerful Golden Crow Guards hadn't done anything either. He's an inferior being from the remote and desolate solar system after all. How dare he say he's going to break through the soaring cloud realm and kill the Ruins Emperor? The sect masters and elders of the 6 heavenly sects of the Hylon world snickered, as if Jiang Tian was just a madman who was fishing for fame and making irresponsible remarks. Chapter 1464. If someone with a sharp mind heard what they said, they would have mocked the cultivators of Hylon. They mocked Kong Teichu, but did they think they could win? Even if Jiang Tian was going to lose, they didn't have the right to mock Jiang Tian. After all, he'd already challenged a few formidable half-step divine transformation realm cultivators without being defeated. Such an accomplishment was rare even in the ruins of immortality, and it was sufficient to show disdain for all. But that was how the world was. Sometimes, the prejudice and arrogance in people's hearts were like a mountain that was difficult to remove. Just like in the mortal world, some people would brag about how powerful their parents and friends were and look down on others even if they were terrible themselves. Let's not talk about a person. Even if it was a country or a civilization that went from weak to strong, a spectacular rise that attracted the attention of many, there would still be people who looked down on it. It was just like how there were still rumors that we mainlanders couldn't afford to eat tea eggs. Even though he's talented, he's from a declining planet after all. He doesn't have enough power. Besides, Prince Chiu Ming was decisive. He sent the 3 elite guards down to the mortal world. That's like killing him in the cradle while he's still weak. If he's given 100 years, no, even 10, the 3 guards might not be able to catch him. Yao Yu Fairy's eyes were filled with regret as she sighed. On the other hand, Wu Shujian rubbed his hands excitedly. I'm afraid he's going to die this time. But how can we get his peerless sword? There are too many people here. Should we just take it? Or ask the 3 guards for it afterward? That sword looks normal when it's not used. They might not be able to tell. Right at this moment, Jiang Tian suddenly sneered and said, That's right. A few ants and cockroaches dare to speculate my power? Fine, I'll let everyone here witness my true power today. I'll show you what it means to be invincible. Jiang Tian shouted in a low voice. Red Sparrow! Boom, 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 the sound of a thunderous explosion, the sound of a river collapsing rang out. As the 10-meter-long divine disc behind him spun slowly, an incomparably hot aura shot out from Jiang Tian's body. It was as if a sun had appeared in the sky and could burn mountains and boil seas. The star river that represented the vermilion bird true seal suddenly emerged from the dazzling disk behind his back. It was extremely dazzling and magnificent, like countless stars flashing and extinguishing. It was like a supernova explosion, dazzling and blazing. Boom! When the red sparrow seal was activated, the sky was filled with raging flames. The clouds and mist within a radius of 5,000 kilometers were burned away in an instant, and the sky shattered. Everyone saw a giant red sparrow appear on Jiang Tian's body. Each of its particles was formed by true fire runes and contained the essence of fire. It could kill a golden core perfected cultivator, and each feather represented a true fire law. In the end, it formed a red sparrow that was 1,000 feet tall. How terrifying would it be? Boom! Once the red sparrow seal appeared, the red sparrow seal, the red sparrow's divine plate. They only felt as if they were close to a burning star. Heat waves rolled, and the temperature was frighteningly high. Even though they were half-soul formation cultivators and their bodies were tough enough to withstand 100 nuclear explosions, they felt as if they were made of wax. They were about to melt and crack. The red sparrow carried the power of Dharma laws. It opened its mouth and let out a shriek, turning into thousands of fire dragons that flashed across the sky towards the divine generals. No! Let's do it! At this moment, screams and roars resounded on the battlefield. Rumble! 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 The earth trembled, and under the suppression of the gung metal blade and the burning of the vermilion bird true flame, the gray pillar of chaos that supported the heavens and earth was shattered and shattered. Even the injured vast cliff couldn't withstand it and was burned to the point of exploding. Even his body and armor were destroyed, turning into a dazzling rain of light that was burned to death by the vermilion bird true flame. A crimson fire was burning on divine General Long Xian's body. He was burning his power and life to resist the cruel heat, but it didn't work. His body, which was comparable to the toughest precious metal in the world, actually began to crack under the high temperature. Then, it collapsed miserably. The third, the fourth, the fifth. Within 3 seconds, the bodies of the 8 divine generals and their dantians exploded like blossoming fireworks. At this moment, all the cultivators were shocked to the point their souls almost left their bodies, and they were stunned on the spot like clay statues, unable to move at all. This scene was simply too shocking. Everyone was in disbelief. Those were the 8 divine generals of the White Python Guards. Even Xianxia, the weakest one among them, was strong enough to defeat the 10 nascent soul cultivators, and the sect masters of the heavenly sects in the level 2 worlds were no match for him. As for the realm lord of a level 3 world like Emperor Chen, he didn't even deserve to carry Xianxia's shoes. As for Long Xian, the most powerful one, it was said that he had cultivated 2 Dharma laws and could defeat all the nascent soul cultivators. When they joined forces, their strength was even more powerful. They could easily defeat a level 2 world in a day, but such a luxurious lineup was destroyed by Jiang Tian. Besides, Jiang Tian was completely suppressing them. He only used 2 divine abilities, and in just 10 seconds, he killed them. It was an instant kill. What kind of terrifying power was this? At that moment, countless cultivators sucked in a breath of cold air. At this time, Ghost Wolf's face turned pale and he suddenly realized something. It turns out that Kong Teichu really showed mercy to me before. If he used such Dharma laws and divine powers, I wouldn't have been alive just now. Kong Teichu, today, I will kill you and avenge my brother. Wu Huan was in so much pain that he wanted to die. Tears flowed down his face and his eyes were filled with hatred. Those 8 divine generals were his right-hand men. Now that they were all dead, he had become a commander without an army. The status of the White Python Guards would fall rapidly in the future. Besides, he and Xianxia were not just superiors and subordinates. They trained together every day, fought side by side, and fought together. They had already formed a deep friendship that even surpassed the blood connection. Oh my God, this guy is too powerful. Wu Shujian refreshed Jiang Tian's impression of him again. He had carefully observed Jiang Tian's cultivation level. In his opinion, Jiang Tian was indeed at the golden core level or the nascent soul level. But he seemed to be able to control more than one Dharma law. The attributes of the golden core level were also different. This was very strange and rare, like a fantasy story. Even in the ruins of immortality and among the heavenly talents on the God of War list, it was rarely seen. But in any case, he was only at the nascent soul level or the golden core level. But now, he killed 8 half-step soul formation cultivators with 1 slash. This was too terrifying. What did a half-step soul formation cultivator mean? That was the most powerful overlord among the nascent soul cultivators. Nascent souls were extremely powerful and had begun to evolve into gods. Their strength was 10 times or even dozens of times more than ordinary nascent soul cultivators. Even if a golden core perfected cultivator had reached the nascent soul level, there was still a huge gap between them and the real nascent soul level and the half-step soul formation level. But Jiang Tian killed them with 1 slash. Chapter 1465. Could it be that this kid is going to turn the tables? Jing Shimin, the sect master of the Dao-seeking sect, and Shizhen Xiang, the sect master of the heavenly incense sect, had reached the pinnacle of the Halon world and could shake an entire region with a stomp of their feet. Yet, at that moment, they were so shocked that their faces turned pale. Tap, tap, tap. Some of the elders were so frightened that their teeth and legs were trembling. They could not wait to run away. They were all very strong. They were veteran nascent soul cultivators or peak stage nascent soul cultivators. They were elders and sect masters, but they knew very well that they were still a long way from reaching the half-step soul formation realm. At that moment, they were certain that if they were to stand in front of Jiang Tian, they would not even be able to withstand a snap of his fingers. They would be pulverized into dust. It could be said that in front of Jiang Tian, cultivators like them who were once high and mighty, looking down on the common people and believing themselves to be gods of the upper world, were nothing. They were ants and cockroaches that could be crushed with a finger. How is this possible? Long Shengnan exclaimed in disbelief. In her impression, her ancestors had told her that the 9 guards of the ruins Emperor's palace were a divine army that was invincible in every battle. They were invincible and undefeatable in every battle. But today, the 8 divine generals had perished in the hands of Jiang Tian. It made her feel as though her world had been overturned and her worldview had been destroyed. Oh, this kid is evil. He's only at the Golden Core realm, but since the start of the battle, he has been using laws that only nascent soul experts can use. Furthermore, he has already used the laws of space, metal, and fire. His golden core is also a mutated golden core in the shape of a divine disc. The Golden Crow Guard captain, Xin Chang, had a solemn expression. His eyes shot out beams of divine light as he carefully scanned Jiang Tian. He was shocked. Could he have a transcendent grade golden core? But even the legendary divine grade golden core can only control 2 types of Dharma laws. But he has already displayed 3 types of Dharma laws, or even more. This is unbelievable. Even Xin Chang, who had lived for thousands of years and was knowledgeable, had never seen such a bizarre thing. At that moment, he could not see through Jiang Tian at all. My lord, victory! The absolute beginning is invincible, invincible, invincible. Only Jiang Tian's camp on the periphery burst into deafening cheers. Senior Tai Chu, well done. Invincible. Ao Jiao waved her pink fists. She was so excited that her beautiful face flushed red. Her curvy and exquisite body trembled non-stop. Her full chest heaved up and down violently. Kill, kill, kill them until they are in despair. Kill them until not even a chicken or a dog is left. Let them taste the bitter taste of failure, endless despair and fear. However, Qi Liqui's beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she gnashed her teeth and shouted. But at this moment, whoosh, whoosh, several beams of colorful light shot out from the turbulent energy. They were the nascent souls of the 8 divine generals. Their nascent souls were no longer ordinary cultivators. Normal nascent souls were usually only about an inch in size, and some were even as small as walnuts or dates. However, their nascent souls were already the size of children, and they already carried a trace of divine aura, as if they were indestructible. You think you can escape? Jiang Tian grunted. The divine generals of the White Python Guards were the Ruins Emperor's loyal accomplices. Most of them even came from the Ruins Emperor's ancestral land. They had once suppressed the wandering cultivators in the ancient deity land. Jiang Tian wanted to destroy the Ruins Emperor's palace, restore the ancient deity land and wipe out an entire sect. He would have to fight with them sooner or later, so there was no way he would show them mercy right then. Boom! The 10-meter-long divine disc behind Jiang Tian spun again. The Taotia's return to origin, which had already become a law-true imprint, rumbled and trembled. An enormous vortex that was like a black hole appeared. It was incomparably deep and contained an extremely terrifying devouring force. At that moment, everything was turned upside down and chaotic, as if time were flowing backward and the air was flowing in reverse. The nascent souls of the 8 divine generals realized in fear that they couldn't break free from the terrifying restraint, even if they burned themselves. Save me, my friend. Mang Ya's nascent soul let out a cry and was sucked into the Taotai vortex. It was torn apart and crushed by a terrifying power. Bang, 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 bang. Like watermelons being smashed, the nascent souls of the other divine generals turned into blood and spirit qi and were swallowed. Only Long Xian's nascent soul was left. It was enveloped in a ball of golden light and was barely holding on with the 9 dragon plates protection Dharma artifact, but it wouldn't last for long. Stop it, villain. Let him go and we can still negotiate. Kongdichu, how dare you? The divine generals of the 3 armies shouted at the same time, trying to stop Jiang Tian. Why do you have to do this, my friend? If you kill him, you'll escalate the conflict to the point where it can't be resolved. The elders and sect masters of the 6 heavenly sects also tried to persuade Jiang Tian with their immortal will, hoping to soften Jiang Tian and save Long Xian's nascent soul. Swish, 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 swish. Beams of light shot through the sky towards Jiang Tian. Dozens of elders and sect masters had already attacked, hoping to break Jiang Tian's Taoye's true seal. But the most frightening thing was that many of those nascent soul heavenly lords were experienced and peak stage nascent soul grand heavenly lords, but once they touched the edge of the Taotai vortex, they would sink into it and be unable to free themselves. Even their bodies and nascent souls would be crushed and torn apart, turning into a rain of flesh and blood, or even into the purest essence qi. In a blink, more than 30 nascent soul heavenly lords were killed. This was a terrifying scene, one that was tragic to the extreme. The Taotai swirl was dark and extremely powerful. Even the sun and the moon seemed to be sinking in it. More than 30 nascent soul heavenly lords were crushed into the tiniest particles and swallowed completely. Not even their bodies were left behind, not even a drop of ashes. Kong Teichu, how dare you hurt my brother? You're courting death. In the end, even the leader of the White Python Guards, Wu Huan, couldn't help but attack. With a sway of his body, he turned into a 1,000-feet-long python. His entire body was snow-white, and his entire body was filled with an aura that made people tremble. It was as if he could devour the heavens and earth as he charged towards Jiang Tian. This was the fusion of the Dharma, the physical body, the nascent soul, and the laws of nature. It was almost the same as the real heaven-swallowing white python. Its power was extremely strong and terrifying. Let him go and I'll spare your life. The giant white python flew across the sky and opened its mouth. A black hole appeared and the devouring laws rumbled. It was going to fight with the Taoye's true seal for Long Xian's nascent soul. Captain Wu Huan is so decisive. He's using the Dharma form right from the start. The Dharma form and the Dharma form. His bloodline, divine powers, nascent soul and body are all combined. Captain Wu Huan is going all out. This time, Captain Wu Huan is really angry. He's using a killing move right from the start. Kong Teichu is going to die this time. At this moment, many people cried out in surprise. Dharma powers were unleashed at the Golden Core stage. For both nascent soul and Golden Core adepts, Dharma powers were the greatest weapons. His Dharma idol had left his body and broken through the shackles of his physical body. His dharmic powers had been elevated to the extreme. However, as long as the Dharma form did not fuse with the physical body, the danger was not great. If the Dharma form was destroyed, it would only damage a portion of the Golden Core's true essence and dharmic powers. But once FAI in one, spirit, nascent soul, Dharma power, qi, blood, and many other factors seemed to have been twisted into a rope. When the limit was strengthened, one's combatability would be improved by 100 times. However, everything has its drawbacks. Even the Dharma and the One are not exempt from this. If one was severely injured while casting the spell, it would affect all sides. There was basically no chance of escaping. The self-destruction of the nascent soul was the most powerful killing move of a nascent soul cultivator. Once it was used, it was said to be comparable to a soul formation cultivator and could even severely injure a soul formation cultivator. But everyone thought that Wu Huan was better. Wu Huan had the true bloodline of the heaven-devouring white python. One had to know that the white sky-devouring python was a top-notch spatial creature, very similar to the Taotai divine beast. It was said that the white sky-devouring python with the purest bloodline would create a small world in its body, which could completely devour the world. An adult purebred white sky-devouring python could even devour a planet with a diameter of billions of feet. Due to Wu Huan's special bloodline, he had once followed the many emperors and princes of the ruins Emperor's Palace to conquer the world, making great contributions. The White Python Guard was named after him. He was one of the 9 commanders, and even the ruins Emperor's Palace had changed his fate to reward him. It was obvious how powerful Wu Huan was and how noble his bloodline was. It could be said that although Wu Huan was only half a step into the soul formation realm, because he cultivated the flawless cultivation method passed down by the ruins emperor and had a special bloodline, he could definitely compete with a soul formation expert who was born in the deity ground. However, no matter what, the white sky-devouring python was not a true divine beast. It was far inferior to the Taotai. Moreover, Wu Huan only had a trace of the white sky-devouring python's bloodline and some innate abilities. He was not a pure white python. As for Jiang Tian's Taotai divine body, it was refined from the darkest stone tablet. It was a true deity material. The power of the Taotai divine body was not much weaker than that of the true Taotai divine beast. You want to compete with me in terms of devouring power? You're courting death. Jiang Tian's eyes were full of contempt as he let out a soft snort. The 30-foot golden core behind him spun slowly as the power of the Taoyes return to the origin was unleashed. It was as if the entire universe was collapsing as countless substances rushed towards the Taotai vortex. Chapter 1466. Even the thousand-zhang-tall mountains were uprooted from the ground. The Blackstone City, which was like a coiling dragon, was flying towards the Taoyes' return to origin. The Taotai returning to origin vortex was shrinking. In the blink of an eye, it was only 100 meters wide. In front of the giant white python, it was as small as a grain of sand under the foot of Mount Tai. But, in this world, the bigger something was, the stronger it was. It was like a fat man who was no match for a strong fist. Even a big bag of cotton couldn't stop a sniper rifle bullet. In fact, the smaller the Taotai returning to origin was, the denser it was, and the heavier it was per unit volume, the stronger the suction and devouring power. Whoosh! The white heaven-devouring python couldn't help but charge toward the vortex. No! How can this be? What kind of law and dharma is this? How can it devour me? Wu Huan let out a thunderous roar, burned his blood, and used thousands of divine powers and thousands of secret techniques, but he couldn't stabilize his body. In fact, many scales and flesh were falling off uncontrollably. Blood and white threads were being pulled toward the vortex. The white python was broken in the middle. Its 1,000-foot-long tail and belly were torn into the tiniest essence chi and devoured by the Taotai returning to origin. The white python screamed and scattered its dharma and dharma. Wu Huan's dharma and true body seemed to have been destroyed. The dharma collapsed and turned into essence chi that was absorbed into the nascent soul. Wu Huan, whose legs were broken and his sternum and waist were shattered into countless pieces, retreated quickly. His blood splashed in the sky and his muscle fibers flew in the air. Swish, swish, swish. Ghost Wolf and many other half-soul formation overlords of the Dark Crow Guards went into the air and appeared behind Jiang Tian in the blink of an eye. They stabbed at him with their Dharma artifacts. They were all expert assassins, either relying on their bloodlines or secret divine abilities. Their movement techniques were extremely fast, and they could even tear apart space. They wanted to besiege Wei to rescue Zhao and rescue Wu Huan. There were also 4 powerful divine generals among the Golden Crow Guards. They turned into streaks of golden light and rushed toward Jiang Tian in an attempt to save Wu Huan. At this instant, the scene was extremely horrifying. The enormous Dharma idol soared through the sky, and it was either surging black lights, blazing flames that burned the sky, or soaring golden lights that possessed magnificent imposing auras. There were laws that rumbled and trembled as they interweaved with order and principle. There were even the experts of the Dark Crow Guard that moved through alternate spaces, appearing and disappearing unpredictably, and it was impossible to guard against. Jiang Tian only snorted softly. The 9-meter-long primal chaos divine disk behind him spun again. The sea-calming ice god law rumbled and formed a true forbidden zone. In that instant, the space around Jiang Tian was locked down and solidified into an iron plate. Countless huge battleships were frozen in the air, like mosquitoes frozen in amber. Even the spatial ripples caused by the Dark Crow Guards condensed in the air and turned into transparent ripples. Some divine generals of the Dark Crow Guards had already broken through the alternate dimension. Half of their bodies had gone into the alternate dimension while the other half of their bodies were frozen in the air. Oh my God, how can there be such a terrifying forbidden zone in this world? At this moment, everyone was screaming and howling. Even if they were nascent soul cultivators or half-step soul formation cultivators, they could not move at all. They could not even move a finger. If the current Jiang Tian wanted to kill them, who would be able to resist or escape? It could be said that Jiang Tian was able to control their life and death with just this one technique. In front of Jiang Tian, they were just fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. I said I'm going to kill you, so I'm going to kill you. Who can stop me? Jiang Tian said resolutely, creating ripples with every step he took, causing the space to fluctuate. Save the captain. At this moment, many golden core cultivators of the White Python Guards went crazy. If Wu Huan died, they would also be sentenced to death. That was the rule of the 9 guards. They had to be absolutely loyal. Soldiers were trained for 1,000 days to be used in a single moment. If their general was about to die, wouldn't it be a waste for them to spend so many elixirs and resources to raise them? They burned their golden cores and rushed towards Jiang Tian like rainbows that pierced through the sky. There were more than 1,000 of them, and they went straight for the ice god's forbidden zone, trying to destroy it. But all of that was in vain. Jiang Tian's forbidden zone was extremely solid and hard. They couldn't leave even the slightest crack on it, no matter how hard they tried. Go to hell! After a shout, the 10-foot divine plate behind Jiang Tian shone brightly, like a sun in the sky. It was extremely bright and eye-catching, and the true seal of the law of Taotai was activated to the extreme. Boom! Wu Huan's body, which was said to be indestructible and strong enough to withstand thousands of close-range nuclear explosions, exploded like a balloon. Pieces of divine bones were shot out and blood was everywhere. His nascent soul, which was close to a god, also collapsed and turned into rolling energy, which was absorbed by the Taotai returning to the origin. From the beginning to the end, only a few seconds had passed. The captain of the White Python Guards, a half-soul formation overlord who ranked 3rd among the 9 guards of the Emperor of the Ruins, had died. Everyone went silent. The golden core cultivators of the White Python Guards outside were terrified, as if they had lost their parents. They floated outside the ice god's forbidden zone like clay statues, motionless and forgetting to attack or run away. Is the captain dead? After a while, a peak-stage golden core cultivator's eyes almost popped out as he said in disbelief. That was too shocking. Wu Huan was infamous in the entire ruins of deity. He had killed all the nascent soul cultivators and was invincible. The White Python Guards he led had the power to destroy a second-level world. And yet, he had died in such a miserable way on that day. The captain is dead. Another golden core perfected cultivator murmured. The elders and sect masters of the 6 heavenly sects of the Hylon world were extremely shocked. They didn't dare to underestimate Jiang Tian anymore, as if they had seen a devil. Activate the god-killing light cannon. Break his forbidden zone. Kill him. Then, Shen Chang gave an order with cold eyes. There was cold sweat on his forehead and he looked unprecedentedly serious, as if he were facing a powerful enemy. In fact, he had never seen a cultivator as fierce and powerful as Jiang Tian. He was only a golden core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator, but he had the ability to kill a half-soul formation cultivator. Besides, he had mastered at least 5 Dharma laws and forbidden zones, including the most terrifying one, the Dimension Forbidden Zone. That was just too evil. Captain Xinchang, we can't do that. The divine generals of the Dark Crow Guards are still controlled by his forbidden zone. If we use the god-killing light cannon to break the dimension, they will all die. A gold core realm cultivator from the Dark Crow Guards said earnestly. In fact, not only were the divine generals of the Dark Crow Guards controlled by Jiang Tian's ice god forbidden zone, but Long Xingnan was also among them. However, no one cared about her life at all. The ruins of deity had a strict hierarchy and the worlds were separated by a natural barrier. Especially since Long Xingnan was a native of the ancient deity land who was enslaved, those cultivators were even worse than dogs in the eyes of the overlords of the ruins of deity. Even if you were a, do I need you to question my orders? Shen Chang pointed his finger and a ray of golden light shot out. The body of the Dark Crow Guard exploded and even his golden core was shattered. He died instantly. He was decisive and ruthless to the extreme. He would never hesitate or be soft-hearted just because his comrades were held hostage by Jiang Tian. He was definitely a qualified commander. Before Shen Chang finished his sentence, thousands of giant battleships shot out beams of god-killing light cannon. Chapter 1467. Those light beams contained Dharma laws. Even though they were launched by a true artifact, they were large true artifacts. After being strengthened several times, their power was comparable to that of a Dao artifact. They could even destroy the dimension and turn it into a black hole. One attack was equivalent to the explosion of thousands of nuclear weapons. No Golden Core Heavenly Lord would be able to withstand it for a second. It could kill thousands of Golden Core Heavenly Lords, and even nascent Soul Heavenly Lords would die. Even a Soul Formation Grand Cultivator would have a headache when facing thousands of god-killing light cannons at the same time. Boom! The air shook and the shock waves spread thousands of miles away, as if the sky had been torn apart. The gigantic hurricane was like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves as it swept away the vitality of all living creatures. The ground trembled violently, and many gigantic mountain peaks were snapped in half and razed to the ground. I'm going to die. I'm doomed. Long Xingnan was so terrified that her face turned pale and she trembled. Then, she suddenly realized that she was just an ant in the eyes of the overlords of the ruins of deity. She wasn't worth mentioning at all. She also noticed that the sect masters and elders of 6 of the 7 heavenly sects of the Hylon world had gone to suppress Jiang Tian. Only the Dragon Clan hadn't shown up. It's possible that the Dragon Clan has been exterminated by the Emperor of the Ruins. The Emperor of the Ruins is ruthless. As she was frightened, a thought came to her mind uncontrollably. She was completely engulfed by anger and grief. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold and his face was full of disdain. He took a step forward and waved his sleeve, wrapping around Long Xingnan. He used the Kuanpeng's extreme speed to break through space and enter the strange space, disappearing. Boom! His forbidden domain had indeed been torn apart by the god-destroying light cannon. Even the laws of the immeasurable sea ice god had been shattered. Streaks of spatial cracks of various colors appeared. They were incomparably beautiful and resplendent as they extended through the forbidden domain like tentacles. The dimension was annihilated, forming a dark black hole that was extremely deep. A black hole was an absolute void. Even time and space did not exist within it. It was countless times more empty than a vacuum. For a moment, countless space currents surged toward the black hole like colorful ribbons and rivers. The force field was distorted, causing a terrifying space collapse. Any nascent soul cultivator within a 100-mile radius would be minced into pieces. Even a real soul formation cultivator would be severely injured if they were able to survive. A blood-curdling scream rang out. The mournful wails shook the heavens and earth. Many divine generals of the Dark Crow Guard were skilled in the space escape technique. However, they were helpless in front of the terrifying space collapse. They could not even break free. Some divine generals' bodies were torn apart, their blood and organs flying in the air. Even their golden cores were cut open neatly. Originally, the golden core fragment should have exploded uncontrollably once it was broken, but for some unknown reason, it did not explode and simply floated in the air. Another divine general exploded in the air like a rotten watermelon. His broken limbs and blood splashed all over the sky. Then he was crushed into powder and blood mist. There were also some whose heads, limbs, and organs flew in all directions as if they had been torn apart by 5 horses. Even if they were separated by 10 miles, 100 miles, they were still alive. Instead, they were screaming miserably, but they were unable to control their own bodies. There were even divine generals whose bodies had entered spatial fragments. The spatial fragments would sometimes collapse and sometimes expand. Their bodies were like inflated toads that would sometimes expand to a height of 1,000 feet or even 1,000 feet, covering the sky and the sun. In the next moment, they would become inch-long dolls that were almost invisible. But everyone knew that they were going to die. Both Jiang Tian's Forbidden Land and the God-killing light cannon contained the power of Dharma laws. Once they were affected, they would be permanently damaged and couldn't be healed. It was like a mortal body being exposed to nuclear radiation at a close distance. The power of Dharma laws couldn't be removed easily. It was hidden in their bodies and kept releasing killing intent and death chi. It might not disappear even after they died. Other than Ghost Wolf, many other half-soul formation divine generals of the Dark Crow Guards died or were severely injured. However, Jiang Tian actually disappeared without a trace. He did not receive the slightest injury. What was invincible? At this moment, the strength that Jiang Tian displayed was called invincible. 8 half-soul formation divine generals, each of whom was extremely powerful and had their own strengths, were killed in an instant. Including the overlords of the White Python Guards, a total of 17 half-soul formation divine generals had died. Clatter, clatter, clatter. How can he be so powerful? He's just a golden core cultivator and a nascent soul formation cultivator, but he killed half-soul formation cultivators as easily as killing chickens. We're too weak. Xianxia, the sect master of the Heavenly Incense sect, Jing Shimin, the sect master of the Wendao sect, and the other overlords of the heavenly sects from the Hylon world were terrified. They trembled and their teeth chattered. They were all nascent soul heavenly lords and had sharp eyes. They could certainly see that Jiang Tian's Dharma laws were flawless and perfect. They were even more powerful than the Dharma laws of the Ruins Emperor. Even the direct descendants of Prince Qiuming were no match for him. That made them even more terrified. They had no idea who Jiang Tian was. This guy is too terrifying. His dimension law is too powerful. After he went into the dimension, there weren't any space waves. I can't even see which dimension he went into. Ghost Wolf's face was as pale as a corpse that had been dead for 3 days. Even though he had escaped, he didn't feel good. The dark crow feathers all over his body fell and the wings formed by his cloak were bleeding. That was because his blood was about to run out and his Dharma power wasn't stable. Where is he? Xianxia also shouted and looked a bit panicked. He stood majestically in the sky above the fleet of the Golden Crow Guard. His eyes, which were like 2 divine lamps, emitted 2 dazzling pillars of light that were 300 meters long. As they swept around, they seemed to be able to penetrate the deepest depths of hell and see through the sun and moon. This was his supreme eye technique, and it was capable of seeing through alternate spaces, causing all demons and monsters to have nowhere to hide. However, at this moment, he was unable to find a trace of Jiang Tian. His immortal will, which belonged to a half-soul formation cultivator, was pushed out like waves, filling the air in a 1,000-mile range and not letting any detail go. Are you looking for me? Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind Xianxia, which was less than 10 meters away. It sounded like the whisper of a devil from the depths of hell. Damn it! Cold sweat immediately appeared on Xianxia's forehead. He had never thought that Jiang Tian's dimension art would be so powerful that he didn't even notice him behind him. Golden Crow Claw. Xianxia didn't even turn around. He formed a claw with his right hand and grabbed behind him. Suddenly, the bird's claw, which was even bigger than a mansion, seemed to be made of precious gold. It shone with a golden light and even tore the space apart, creating 5 black space cracks. It was extremely dense and sharp as it grabbed towards Jiang Tian. Even more terrifying was that along with this strike of his, blazing and monstrous flames instantly filled the entire sky behind him. The temperature was terrifyingly high, causing all the rocks in an area of 50 kilometers to melt and shatter, causing them to lose all vitality and transform into ash. Those flames were made of extremely advanced fire laws. They could turn all the energy around into a part of the flames, like the sun's essence, and the true fire of the sun. Xianxia was definitely not weak, and he had a lot of battle experience. He used his ultimate attack right away, using the limit of a half-soul formation cultivator. He didn't talk nonsense or taunt, which would only put him in a passive position. Chapter 1468. Swish. Only Ghost Wolf, the leader of the Dark Crow Guards, could see that Jiang Tian had already slashed 5 or 6 times before he left. These blades didn't have any shape at all, but they were able to easily break through space. They were actually condensed from supreme space laws, and they were like illusions as they silently slashed towards Xianxia's back. After those slashes, Jiang Tian seemed to be exhausted. He panted slightly before Xianxia's golden crow claw reached him. He disappeared into the void like a ghost. Void-shattering slash. That was a space saber technique that could only be used when the Kuan Peng extreme speed divine body reached the transcendence realm. It could directly break through space and destroy everything. It was extremely dangerous. At that moment, Jiang Tian could only use the Kuan Peng extreme speed divine body to travel through space. It was more of a space escape technique than a space attack technique. It was no longer in the category of ordinary laws. It was close to the Great Tao. Even a normal soul formation realm cultivator might not be able to use it. It was too mysterious and magical. In the eyes of the crowd, Jiang Tian retreated after Xianxia stretched out his claw and burned the sky. Because Jiang Tian's slash was too fast, no one saw it. He's no match for Captain Xianxia. He can only run away. Many cultivators from the upper world smiled proudly. Then they heard. Bang bang bang. Terrifying explosions spread across the entire Black Rock City and the ancient demon abyss. Xianxia was like a soccer ball that had been kicked away by someone. He leaped into the air and flew out for over 100 miles. Jiang Tian's nirvana void-splitting blade was like a maggot in a tarsal bone. The power of law rolled out like a tide, continuously injuring him. That was the power of laws and order. It was far more powerful than any physical attack and had a long-lasting effect. Once infected, it could kill you for decades or even centuries. Even though Xianxia burned his golden crow bloodline and used the sun essence to protect his body, he still couldn't withstand it. Jiang Tian's space blade technique transcended all matter, and the related laws were above all things. Even though Xianxia's sun essence and true fire were extremely strong to protect his body, he was still slashed to the point where he spurted out blood. Huge wounds opened up on his body as sparkling and translucent god blood dyed the sky. Even the fragments of his internal organs shot out. Wherever the blade aura reached, dozens of metal ships that were a few thousand feet long were split in half. The terrifying dimension laws destroyed everything. Large Dharma artifacts such as the god-destroying light cannons inside the ships were crushed and turned into giant fireballs. The lightning pierced through the sky like a giant python and burned all the Golden Crow warriors on the battleship. Even the nascent soul captain was burnt to ashes. Hiss! At this moment, all the cultivators from the upper realm fell silent. Only the sound of people inhaling cold breaths could be heard. Including the Golden Crow mothership that had already turned around and activated the god-destroying light cannon, it also froze in the void. Between the heavens and the earth, space-time gales howled as lightning and flames intersected and rumbled. Countless warriors from the upper world were dumbfounded. The warriors of the Golden Crow Guards didn't come from Fusang and Luya in the valley of Tang in the ancient deity ground. They were colonists from the South Gate 1 planet. The natives of the South Gate Galaxy were also a famous race in the universe. At least in the Southgate Galaxy, they were a peerless race with extremely powerful bloodlines. Each Golden Crow ship was made with divine mark red copper by hundreds of grand artifact masters from the Divine Craft Hall in the ruins of deities. Countless patterns and dharma laws were engraved on them and many precious crystals were inlaid. They could withstand dozens of full-strength attacks from a half-soul formation cultivator and were extremely powerful in terms of defense. Jiang Tian had destroyed dozens of ships with only the aftermath of the blade aura. His power was indeed shocking and unbelievable. He was far more powerful than normal half-soul formation cultivators. Not even Xinchang could do that. And there was Xinchang. He was the leader of the 9 guards that Prince Qiuming valued the most powerful half-soul formation cultivator who was infinitely close to the soul formation cultivator. He was famous across the world and dominated the worlds of the ruins of deities. Yet today he ended up in such a state, suppressed and beaten by Jiang Tian. At this moment, everyone was awakened. They all realized that Jiang Tian's power wasn't as simple as they thought. They had underestimated Jiang Tian's divine powers and dharma laws. Not even Captain Xinchang can defeat him. The overlords of the 6 heavenly sects of Hailan were so scared that they couldn't wait to run away. Is that a golden core cultivator? Is that a nascent soul cultivator? Even a soul formation cultivator can't do much. Fairy Yao Yu was terrified. She only felt that the ant in the desolate galaxy in her eyes had suddenly transformed into a primordial divine beast that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, capable of swallowing the heavens and devouring the earth, and sweeping through all the worlds in the universe. What a peerless sword! I'm afraid I don't have a chance anymore. Wu Shujian wanted to cry and stomped his feet. He was indeed a sword maniac. He was still thinking about Jiang Tian's heaven-extinguishing sword. However, as soon as he thought about the heaven-extinguishing sword, his body trembled and his face turned pale. He pulled Fairy Yao Yu back 3,000 miles. He said with a trembling voice, "This is still not his limit. Once he uses that peerless sword, it'll be even more terrifying. It's hard to say who will win this battle." His attitude had changed. What? Will Kang Teichu win? These are the 3 Golden Crow guards. There are 100,000 Golden Core cultivators here. Fairy Yao Yu widened her eyes as if she were listening to a legend. 100,000 Golden Core cultivators was actually just a title. Even though some of them were Foundation Establishment cultivators, they were natives of the Southgate Galaxy after all. Their divine powers were compatible with the world, and their Tao was natural. They could completely suppress the Golden Core perfected cultivators who came from the universe and practiced the traditional cultivation arts of the ancient deity land. So, they were also counted as Golden Core cultivators. Some cultivators were at the Foundation Establishment level, but they could still display the power of a Golden Core cultivator with their Dharma treasures. But no matter what, there were at least tens of thousands of Golden Core powerhouses. They were like an iron curtain that covered the sky. Who could break through it? Just wait and see. Kang Teichu is indeed a Golden Core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator, but he's mastered too many Dharma laws. It's like a few nascent soul cultivators working together and his Dharma laws are too perfect. Wu Shujian was certain that he could already see the tragic fate of Xinchang and the others. He became serious and thought of many things. If Prince Qiuming couldn't defeat Kang Teichu after losing 3 guards, it would be an unprecedented defeat and even the Emperor of the Ruins would be alerted. Besides, the emperors and princes of the Ruins Emperor's Palace were all fighting for power. The situation was extremely complicated and there might be some chaos. His thoughts ran wild. On the battlefield. How can you hurt me? Xinchang roared angrily, unable to accept the reality. Just now, he had pushed his Golden Crow bloodline to its limits. Even Sun Essence and Quintessential Fire were unleashed. Yet he still failed to stop Jiang Tian. He had suffered several saber wounds and was in an extremely tragic state. At that moment, his armor was shattered and there were several deep saber wounds on his broad back. They were all penetrating wounds and one could see his pulsating organs, pale golden bones, and blood. Within the saber wounds, Countless Kunpeng laws that could destroy space spiraled and swept across. They were formed from Kunpeng runes that were smaller than atoms. They were extremely unstable and filled with destructive power. They forcefully tore open his wounds and even spread into his body. His expression was extremely grave as his hands trembled. He formed hand seals and chanted incantations. He used the astral steps and roared repeatedly to stimulate his golden crow bloodline. The nascent soul roared as flames that resembled quintessential fire and sun essence erupted from his wounds. It was the external manifestation of the golden crow's fire elemental laws. A wisp of flame could penetrate metal and stone, incinerate the heavens and boil the seas. It was extremely hot and intense as it attempted to burn Jiang Tian's Kunpeng space-shattering laws. Chapter 1469. I've attacked you 5 times, but I still can't kill you. You're really strong. In the end, many ships fell. When the dust settled, Jiang Tian's figure flashed again in the vast sky, shaking his head regretfully. It seemed that he was frustrated that he couldn't kill Xianxia with a few attacks. Many people were shocked and angry. That was too infuriating and arrogant. A country bumpkin from a desolate planet dares to ride on our necks and pee. That kid is too arrogant. I can't stand it. Many people gnashed their teeth in hatred, wishing they could chew Jiang Tian to pieces. However, there were even more people who were trembling with fear and felt a chill in their hearts. Thinking about Jiang Tian's rise, although he was arrogant and unruly, although he seemed to be extremely reckless, almost every battle was a direct confrontation, and he did not use any schemes or tricks. But had he ever failed? He had been pushing all the way, starting from Earth and conquering all the dimensional worlds in the solar system. Then, he crossed 4 light years and arrived at the South Gate 1 planet. He swept and destroyed everything. If he wasn't 100% sure, he wouldn't have contacted you at all. He would only give you a thunderous blow when he had accumulated enough capital. Besides, he had an aura. At that moment, Jiang Tian's clothes were ragged and torn, revealing his strong and blood-stained body. His shoulder-length black hair was fluttering in the wind like a black waterfall. His body was as straight as a javelin. His eyes were like swords and his energy was like a rainbow. There was a kind of domineering and awe-inspiring aura that could sweep the world and destroy all living things, which made people's hearts palpitate. Protect Captain Xianxia. At that moment, the 8 divine generals under Xianxia's command all lined up and took up positions in all directions. Their violent energy filled the air as they confronted Jiang Tian. Xianxia was troubled by the Kunpeng space-breaking law left by Jiang Tian at the moment and couldn't be repaired. He was like a leaking balloon, unable to exert his power at all. Hylon Heavenly Sex, I didn't ask you to come down to the lower bound for sightseeing. All of you attack Jiang Taichu. If anyone dares to back down, kill them all. One of the divine generals roared furiously. In their eyes, Hylon was a low-level world and was a descendant of the ancient celestial lands. That meant that they were slaves who were captured to be cannon fodder. However, because Wu Huan and the other master divine generals thought that killing Jiang Tian was foolproof, they took action themselves. In the end, they suffered heavy casualties. This made him very unhappy. He wanted nothing more than to kill these sea wave cultivators to vent his anger. We obey. Even though the potentates of the heavenly sect, such as Jing Shimin, were trembling with fear, they didn't dare to defy Jiang Tian. Because, under the blue sky, was the human world. Cultivators were also humans. They had Dao companions and children, and they also had feelings. If they didn't fight, not only would they be killed, their Dao companions and children would also be exterminated. Dark Crow Guard, support Captain Xianxia. Ghost Wolf ordered. Activate the God-destroying light cannon. Shoot them down. A divine general ordered. Activate the divine shield of the warship and defend the front. All the captains were shouting at the same time. This was very rare because these ships were still indestructible even if they didn't activate the Dharma artifacts. This design was originally used to deal with the cultivators from other planets. However, in fact, no cultivators from other planets had appeared in the Southgate galaxy for thousands of years, so this design was considered superfluous. And yet it was activated that day, as the orders were passed down one after another. Rumble. Layers upon layers of defensive formations spread out on the ships like blooming lotuses. There were white pythons biting the sun, golden crows breathing fire, divine crows howling, Xian snakes and divine turtles. Countless strange phenomena appeared in the sky. This was the external appearance of the Dharma artifacts' Dharma powers. They were extremely powerful, 10 times stronger than the Dharma arrays of the Black Rock City. They could withstand an attack from a soul formation Grand Cultivator. Everything is in vain. I told you that you'll all die here today. While they were preparing, Jiang Tian had already begun to attack. Shen Chang, don't waste your time. You can't break my Dharma laws. The only thing waiting for you is death. He didn't attack at close range. Instead, he appeared 100 kilometers away, and then he tore through the sky like a golden rainbow. Amidst his long laughter, he swaggered and charged toward Shen Chang. A heavenly sect from the Hailan world attacked Jiang Tian from the side. More than 30 nascent soul heavenly lords joined forces and attacked together. How powerful would 30 nascent soul heavenly lords be when they attacked together? Besides, they knew how powerful Jiang Tian was, so they didn't show any mercy. The essence chi within a 100-mile radius was immediately sucked out and the sky collapsed. This attack was enough to destroy everything within a 100-mile radius. More than 30 completely different laws and powers converged into a torrent of energy that crashed down from the 9th heaven like a heavenly river. The chaotic light pillar was as thick as a mountain. It brought with it endless destructive power. It was going to smash Jiang Tian, the Black Rock City, and even the ancient demon abyss into dust. Facing this destructive attack, all the cultivators on the side were speechless. Qi Jui was so frightened that he trembled and almost fell to the ground. Senior, Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui wanted to shout, but they couldn't. Their hearts were about to explode from the violent pressure. But the next second, Jiang Tian waved his hand as if he were sweeping away dust. It was as if a universe had been born from the bottom of his sleeves, reversing the sun and the moon. Heaven and earth were in chaos. The energy torrent that was as thick as a heavenly pillar was actually shattered into pieces. In the next moment, it was blown away by the endless astral winds, and not even a drop of residue was left. He's so powerful. Ao Jiao finally realized that Jiang Tian's 2 breakthroughs in the ancient demon abyss weren't simple. They were 10 times or 100 times more powerful. When he was facing more than 20 nascent soul heavenly lords above the 18 islands, Jiang Tian had to fight for a long time and even used the heavenly sword. But now, Jiang Tian had really destroyed them with a wave of his sleeve. No nascent soul heavenly lords could stop him. How is that possible? The sect master of the heavenly sect was someone who was on par with Long Baxia. He also thought highly of himself, but he couldn't even withstand a wave of Jiang Tian's sleeve. Again, he shouted. He didn't want to accept failure. He used his immortal will and used his secret art to kill Jiang Tian, even if he had to burn his nascent soul. It's too late. But Jiang Tian didn't give them a chance. Then, under the dumbfounded gazes of countless cultivators, Jiang Tian casually pointed out with his finger, as if it was an understatement. The sect master of the heavenly sect, who was a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator and a mid-grade nascent soul cultivator, who was the vanguard and wanted to make a contribution, was directly blown up in the air. Countless scarlet blood splashed in the air and broken limbs flew everywhere. After that, Jiang Tian waved his hand again. A golden blade aura 100 feet long cut 8 nascent soul elders and hall masters in half. Even their nascent souls didn't manage to escape in time and were crushed into powder by the Dharma laws of metal. In the end, Jiang Tian thought it was too slow to kill, so he turned into a beam of golden light and flashed into the crowd. He didn't rely on any dermic powers, nor did he use any Dao techniques. He relied purely on his physical body to charge forward. Like a golden comet shooting across the sky, he was like an extremely sharp heavenly sword that sliced through butter as he crashed into the group of heavenly sect cultivators who had attacked him. Boom! Above the ancient demon abyss, dozens of nascent soul heavenly lords from the upper world were hit by Jiang Tian or swept by his tail. All of them exploded as if they had been hit by a space battleship. Their sturdy bodies couldn't withstand the impact at all, and even their nascent souls were crushed. In a blink, the nascent soul heavenly lords of the ocean waves heavenly sect, who were a few hundred miles away, retreated much faster than when they attacked. All the overlords of the ocean waves heavenly sect, including the divine generals, looked at him in fear. Qi Jiui, Mingyi, Ta Kong, and even Wushujian widened their eyes. Countless creatures in the Yingzhou state, including mortals, cultivators, and beasts, were also dumbfounded, as if they had seen a ghost. At that moment, the entire world was in silence. That was an unprecedented terror, which made everyone's hair stand on end. It was even more shocking than when Jiang Tian killed so many semi-god realm cultivators. Chapter 1470. That was because Jiang Tian didn't use any divine powers or dharma forms. He only used his body to smash dozens of nascent soul heavenly lords. Just how tough is this kid's body? Even a soul formation body can't compare to him. Many nascent soul heavenly lords of the Hylon world thought. However, this was not the end. Jiang Tian drew a series of arcs in the sky. His body turned into a golden rainbow, and he was like a peerless heavenly blade sweeping through everything in his path. He was unscrupulous. Rumble. Another Sea Billow World's Empyrean sect camp was torn apart. Blood dyed the sky and severed limbs flew everywhere. It was incomparably bloody and callous. Run! He's terrifying. My leg! Dozens of nascent soul heavenly lords were screaming and running away. They couldn't resist at all. They were smashed into pieces like wooden sculptures being smashed by a giant hammer. Stuff. How dare you? Kong Teichu, don't be so arrogant. The divine generals of the Golden Crow Guards were shocked. They had never thought that Jiang Tian would be so powerful. He had reached the level of evilness and evil. Not even a half-soul formation cultivator could kill a nascent soul cultivator so easily with his body. I'll fight you. Two of the divine generals stepped out and charged towards Jiang Tian. The remaining divine generals stood guard around Xin Chang, protecting him as he healed. The two divine generals had cold expressions, as if they were high and mighty gods looking down on a wild beast. Golden aura swirled around them, and flames spewed out of them. Boom! Jiang Tian didn't dare to underestimate them. He immediately activated the Gung Metal Fist and threw a punch at one of them. Gung Metal Fist. The Gung Metal immortal body was unleashed, and his fist was imbued with a deathless, indestructible aura that could destroy anything. The sun and the moon were reversed, and heaven and earth were thrown into chaos. A spatial tunnel was opened. That was the 9th divine general of the Golden Crow, Shen Chang's brother. He had a noble status among the Golden Crows in the ruins of deity and was also very powerful. But in the face of Jiang Tian's punch, the 9th divine general turned into a streak of resplendent golden light. He wanted to dodge, but he still let out a miserable howl. Half of his body was blasted apart. Golden blood splattered everywhere. His severed limbs were sent flying with surging flames. Everyone was shocked, not daring to believe it. The 9th Golden Crow Divine General was extremely powerful. The Golden Crow Guard was the head of the 9 guards, and the 9 guards of the Golden Crow Guard were the most powerful and terrifying of all the divine generals in the 9 guards. The 9th Golden Crow Divine General's strength was on par with the other guard captains. He was very famous in the ruins of immortality. Moreover, this Kong Teichu's strength seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. As the battle progressed, he could actually defeat a half-step divine transformation realm cultivator with one punch. It was too terrifying. Jiang Tian pointed in the air and was about to kill the 9th Golden Crow Divine General. At this moment, the 6th-ranked Divine General rushed over and roared, Don't hurt my ninth brother. He was like a great sun that covered the sky. Golden light shone resplendently as flames surged outwards. He relied on the Golden Crow bloodline's innate divine ability to control metal and flame natural laws. It was extremely rare and powerful. You're courting death. Jiang Tian didn't hold back at all. He waved his fingers and the gung metal divine blade swept forward, directly cutting the sixth Golden Crow divine general in half. Even his nascent soul was crushed. Kong Teichu, you'll be hunted down for going against the Ruins Emperor's Palace and Prince Qiuming. Prince Qiuming will cut you into pieces even if he has to go to the ends of the world. You'll have to fall to hell and never be burned to ashes. Before his nascent soul was completely destroyed, the sixth divine general was still cursing and roaring with hatred. He couldn't accept that he had been killed by an outsider from a barren planet. You'll be the one to go to hell first. Go to hell with your resentment. Jiang Tian performed the return of the Taotai and completely swallowed his nascent soul, turning it into the purest energy and infusing it into the golden core of the divine plate. The cores representing the red sparrow and gung metal seemed to have become more solid and resplendent. Then, he flicked his finger and penetrated the forehead of the ninth Golden Crow divine general, who was about to retreat to the army. Even his nascent soul was crushed. Kill. Let's attack together. He's too powerful. If we don't get rid of him today, he'll be a huge threat in the future. Avenge ninth and sixth brother. The other Golden Crow divine generals also yelled and led 100 nascent soul heavenly lords to surround Jiang Tian, like an iron curtain in the sky. You're courting death. Jiang Tian wasn't afraid at all. He took out the sky-shaking bow and moved around while shooting arrows in all directions. Those divine generals and grand cultivators couldn't dodge in time and died while screaming. The sky-shaking bow was a treasure left from the ancient times. Its power was unpredictable and it had once killed the light sacred ones on earth. At the moment, the treasure was in Jiang Tian's hands. It complemented Jiang Tian's 9 divine bodies and 9 laws, making him 10 times more powerful. Every time the 10-meter-long divine disc behind him spun, it would shoot out arrows of different attributes, containing different laws of fire. There were golden arrows, ice arrows, fire arrows, wooden arrows, and so on. There were so many different types of arrows that it was impossible to guard against. It's like shooting an eagle with a bow. It's too easy and casual. In the distance, many cultivators from the upper worlds were frightened. Kong Teichu attacked ruthlessly without any restraint. The situation of the battle had taken a turn for the worse. He had already gained the absolute advantage and had become the main character on the battlefield. Swish, swish, swish. Jiang Tian shot at the other divine generals and grand cultivators to distract them. His real targets were Shun Chang and Ghost Wolf. At this moment, Shun Chang and Ghost Wolf were in a sorry state. They were being chased by arrows, and the entire place was in chaos. The sharp arrows pierced through the air. Each of them was a mile long and contained the power of laws. They pierced through space. They contained the power of laws and seemed to have spirituality. If they didn't hit the target, they would fly and chase for a long time. They were like cruise missiles. Kong Teichu, if I weren't injured, I would have killed you as easily as killing a chicken. Shen Chang's hair was disheveled as he shouted in exasperation. He had just removed the heptametal law from a few saber scars when he was shot again, causing one of his arms to explode. Ever since he started cultivating, he had never suffered such a serious injury or suffered such a great loss. Moreover, he was even more miserable this time. His body was infected by 7 or 8 laws. The situation was complicated and extremely difficult to remove. He was like a patient who had been exposed to nuclear radiation. The laws were invading his nascent soul like maggots. Shen Chang took out flaming feathers, which became bigger in the wind and fluttered around him like flaming flags. This was the remains of a soul formation grand cultivator of their ancestor when he passed away. It contained a vast amount of Dharma power, trying to block Jiang Tian's attack. Captain, enter the Golden Crow's mothership to heal. A divine general shouted. Half of his body was broken and stained with blood. He used his Dharma power to block Jiang Tian's arrows, but he was shot away like a rag doll. Escort me into the mothership. Although Shen Chang was unwilling, he had to accept reality and could only give the order. Jiang Tian's methods were too terrifying. He attacked from afar and at close range. With one arrow, nascent soul cultivators fell like rain. His punches and kicks could kill divine generals. He was simply invincible. Chapter 1471. In the end, Shen Chang finally made it into the Golden Crow's mothership after losing 2 divine generals and injuring many nascent soul cultivators. Rumble! The many arrows that Jiang Tian released hit the Golden Crow mothership. Instantly they exploded like fireworks. They did not penetrate the mothership and did not even leave many marks. All cultivators, get into the ships. Activate the Dharma artifacts on the ships and fire from afar. A divine general gritted his teeth and ordered, his eyes red with hatred. Originally, Xiaochen thought that with the 3 guards and 6 sects working together, killing Jiang Tian in the lower realm would be as easy as going on a scenic tour. They had never thought that they would suffer such a cruel defeat. More than 20 famous half-step divine transformation realm cultivators had died, and countless nascent soul heavenly lords had died. This was a great loss for them and they couldn't bear it. However, he still had to order everyone to retreat into the ship to avoid the brunt of the attack. Under Jiang Tian's full power, whether it was the original leveled cultivators or those who were half a step away from the divine transformation realm, they were all crushed like mud. Swish, swish, swish. In fact, Shi Zhenxiang, Jing Shimin and the other nascent soul heavenly lords had already lost their minds. However, they didn't dare to retreat because the 3 guards were supervising the battle. After receiving the order, they didn't hesitate at all. They all jumped into the ships like homeless dogs. Those ships were made with rare metals and were engraved with countless patterns and Dharma laws. They could withstand the attack of a half-soul formation cultivator and last for a while. Kong Te Chu, I'm going to cut you into pieces today. If I recover, you'll die within 3 attacks. Shen Chang shouted. He had used all kinds of secret arts and paid a great price to suppress the Dharma laws left in his wounds. He could still fight. After all the cultivators entered the ships. Fire. As the order was given, beams of light, black light, and blazing fire interweaved and shot towards Jiang Tian. Every single one of them was extremely dangerous. Yao Yu Fairy asked, Brother Shujian, what do you think will happen next? The fleets of the 3 guards have been here for 10,000 years. There are countless arrays and foundations on each ship, especially on the mothership. Even if Jiang Taichu is very strong, has a strong physical body, and can control supreme laws, it is still very difficult for him to destroy these ships. Wu Shujian shook his head and said, that's because the divine generals are too weak. It can be said that Captain Shen and the others were too careless in this battle. If they had hidden in the Golden Crow mothership and attacked from the beginning, they might not have been able to take down Jiang Taichu with such heavy losses. However, even if Jiang Taichu is unable to kill Shen Chang and annihilate the 3 guards and 6 sects, with the strength he has displayed now, it would be difficult for Shen Chang and the others to kill him. Right now, Jiang Taichu can come and go as he pleases. He's invincible and nothing can stop him. When the surrounding cultivators heard this, all of them were terrified. Even Yao Yu Fairy was startled and her heart was in turmoil. The mighty 3 Golden Crow guards were like heavenly soldiers in the ruins of deity. They were invincible. The 6 heavenly sects of the Hylon world were also powerful. And yet, 100,000 Golden Core cultivators, a few hundred nascent soul cultivators and many half-soul formation cultivators were suppressed by one person. If this news were to spread to the upper worlds, it would cause a huge uproar. Even if Jiang Taichu didn't manage to kill all of them in the end, the fact that he was able to kill a half-step soul formation cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator at the same time shows that he's a genius. He can be considered the #1 cultivator in the ocean wave world. Many people exclaimed. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian hid in the dimension and showed up from time to time to avoid the attacks from the ships. His eyes were calm and emotionless. Kong Taechu, I'll recover soon. You're no match for me. Why don't we shake hands and make peace? If you surrender now, I won't kill you. Instead, I'll ask Prince Chioming to spare your life. Prince Chioming needs people and I think he'll use you. I'm not kidding and I won't go back on my words. Everyone here can be a witness. Shen Chang said in a deep voice as he quickly repaired his body. At this moment, everyone thought that Jiang Tian would go with the flow and lower his head to admit defeat. After all, he was already the most powerful cultivator in the world. There was nothing embarrassing about surrendering to Prince Chioming. But Jiang Tian shouted, Prince Chioming, who does he think he is? He's not worthy of being looked at by me, Kong Taechu. Shake hands and make peace? You don't know that this world already belongs to me, Kong Taechu. From the moment you invaded this world without any prior notice, your fates were already sealed. You can only die. After he said that, how dare you? In your dreams. Bastard. Angry roars could be heard from the warships. Then, there was an earth-shattering explosion. Beams of light shot across the sky, wind howled and the sun appeared in the sky. The Dharma artifacts on the ships were all activated. The area where Jiang Tian was immediately turned into a chaotic current. The sky darkened and the sun and moon dimmed. Each wave of Dharma laws could kill a nascent soul heavenly lord. Thousands of Dharma laws filled the sky and surged towards Jiang Tian like an ocean. Jiang Tian was not afraid at all. His tattered clothes fluttered in the wind, making flapping sounds. Around his body, there was a 10-zhang-long black Taotai vortex. All the light pillars, dark winds, and flames that came in front of the vortex immediately fell into it, vanishing into thin air as they were devoured. Xinchang, do you think you still have a chance to recover? Jiang Tian snickered and mocked. Do you think I can't do anything to you if you hide in your turtle shell? But today, I'll let you so-called deities, divine officials and divine generals of the upper world see what real power is. Jiang Tian's words were resolute and decisive. This kid, does he really want to destroy our ship? He can indeed destroy normal ships, but what about the space carriers? Didn't he see that when his arrow hit the mothership, it exploded and didn't even leave a white mark? Many cultivators mocked Jiang Tian. In their eyes, Jiang Tian was like an ant trying to shake a tree. He was laughable and overestimating himself. Just as the crowd was mocking Jiang Tian, they suddenly saw Jiang Tian reach out and grab at the ancient demon abyss. Rumble! Under the horrified gaze of countless people, a 10,000-foot mountain rose from the ground and flew above the Golden Crow space carriers. It fell from the sky like a falling asteroid. At this moment, countless cultivators from the upper world looked up in shock. 10,000 feet was dozens of miles. A mountain that was dozens of miles tall was almost the size of a city on Earth. Jiang Tian's grab forcefully lifted up an entire city and then smashed it down from above. How terrifying was that power? How terrifying was his strength? He was like a god. Clang. The 10,000-foot mountain smashed into the Golden Crow space carriers. The defensive array that had been activated long ago was completely activated under the violent collision. Flames burned the sky and sword energy shot into the sky, illuminating thousands of miles. The huge mountain was blocked by the defense and attack of the defensive array. In the end, it collapsed. Kong Taechu, do you think you can destroy my Golden Crow space carriers with a few broken stones? Are you kidding me? How ignorant! Just as Shen Chang showed a mocking smile. The 3-foot bright disk behind him spun. Jiang Tian was shrouded by the shadow of the thick earth dragon. He roared like a dragon and grabbed with both hands. Second one. Third one. Fourth one. Jiang Tian was like a god in the myths and legends. He had infinite divine power. As soon as he reached out his hand, a gigantic mountain weighing hundreds of millions of tons was lifted and smashed down with a rumble. Almost in the blink of an eye, he grabbed hundreds of mountains and the Golden Crow space carriers were hit hundreds of times. Chapter 1472. How is that possible? Looking at the mountains that were falling like rain, Xianxia's smile froze on his face and he couldn't smile anymore. Nascent soul cultivators could only lift a 1,000-foot mountain at most. It was already difficult to lift a 100,000-foot mountain and they had to burn their nascent souls. However, Jiang Tian could easily lift 100,000-foot mountains and smash them with the power of heaven and earth. It was terrifying and not even a half-soul formation cultivator could do that. Defend. Open the array. Open the array completely. Retreat. Retreat. Xianxia gave many orders with his immortal will. Rumble. Kacha. Above the Golden Crow's mothership, the layers of protective formations collapsed and exploded under this wild and destructive force. After 100 mountains fell, the Golden Crow's mothership was already half dead. At least half of the arrays were destroyed and flames and black smoke were everywhere. Phew. Just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief, the Golden Crow's mothership retreated quickly and spewed out flames towards Jiang Tian. Many ships surged like tides and crossed the sky, shooting at Jiang Tian. The divine disk behind Jiang Tian spun and a mighty winged dragon jumped out with a craggy ancient stone cauldron in its arms. Jiang Tian sneered and said, "The first 100 mountains are just the appetizer. This is my real attack. Everyone, you can leave your last words." The winged dragon came out with the cauldron and flew above the Golden Crow's mothership, smashing the primal chaos stone cauldron down from the sky. When the cauldron came out, it was easy at first and there were no Dharma power fluctuations. Kong Teichu must be exhausted. He actually used a small stone cauldron to smash people. He must be exhausted. He's just a golden core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator. It's already difficult for him to lift a 100,000-foot mountain, let alone 100 at once. I'm afraid he'll vomit blood later. A stone cauldron the size of a millstone wants to smash our Golden Crow's mothership. His head must have been kicked by a donkey. Many cultivators from the higher realms didn't recognize the might of the primal chaos source cauldron. They couldn't help but mock and ridicule it, laughing like pigs. However, the more the primal chaos source cauldron smashed down, the more grand and terrifying its might became. In the end, it was as if a vast continent was pressing down. Chaotic chi swirled around and each chaotic chi could kill a nascent soul heavenly lord. There were more than thousands of them at the moment. Countless galactic crystal sands turned into mountains and giant rocks that were shot out in all directions, as if billions of nuclear weapons had been detonated. Each of them had the power to destroy the world. The galaxy crystal sand was only a derivative of the primal chaos source cauldron, but at this moment, it could easily crush ships and even tear apart true artifact-level defensive arrays. For a moment, rumble. The ships collapsed one after another, bursting into flames. Billowing black smoke soared into the sky like smoke signals. The world was in chaos. Help. Senior Tai Chu, spare my life. For a time, countless cultivators, at least 10 or 20,000, were crushed, burned, or minced into meat paste, whether golden core or nascent soul. At that moment, the heavens cried out in unison, shaking everything within 10,000 miles. There was nothing left in the sky except for the giant stone cauldron that carried the energy of the beginning of the world. It was as heavy as a world and its power suppressed the world. No Dharma arrays or Dharma treasures could resist it. Even a half-soul formation cultivator would have to suffer in front of it. Bang! In the end, they were fiercely smashed by the chaotic source cauldron. Under the copious and irresistible force of the cauldron, countless formations were like eggshells that were struck by a sledgehammer, and they didn't even persist for a single instant before shattering into pieces. In the end, the entire Golden Crow's mothership was crushed by the primal chaos source cauldron like a clay toy and fell into an endless sea of fire. At that moment, none of the 10,000 golden core cultivators on the ship survived. Even 100 famous nascent soul heavenly lords were burned to ashes and crushed into powder. How is that possible? Seeing this, everyone was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Many people didn't know how powerful the Golden Crow's mothership was. That wasn't strange. This was because ever since the Golden Crow mothership was successfully built, It had always been able to kill anything that stood in its way. It was invincible. Nascent soul cultivators and soul formation cultivators were no match for it. And yet, looking at the Golden Crow's mothership that was blown away like a sand sculpture, everyone felt that everything was like a nightmare. The Golden Crow's mothership, which was 10,000 feet long and had been built by heavenly craftsmen for hundreds of years and countless heavenly treasures, as well as countless Golden Crow guards on it, were turned into ashes after Jiang Tian's attack. Not even a drop of dust was left. Only black smoke and metal pieces were left in the sky. The majestic ship was nowhere to be seen. It seemed to have been wiped out from the world by an entity. The entire Golden Crow's mothership and the cultivators on it had disappeared. Below them, however, appeared an imprint that was extremely deep and dark, like a lake in a high gorge. It was created by the energy of the primal chaos source cauldron. This attack is comparable to that of a soul formation cultivator and a grand cultivator. Many people were dumbfounded and their souls were about to leave their bodies. He didn't do it with his own power, but with that strange stone cauldron. Many nascent soul heavenly lords with sharp eyes suddenly realized something. But there was nothing to say. This was a battlefield, not a battle in a sect where the winner was king and the loser was an ant. Nobody had the right to restrict the other's means. Using Dharma treasures, Dharma artifacts, sneak attacking, or even holding the other's family and friends hostage, it was enough to kill the other party. That stone cauldron is so powerful. It's definitely a deity treasure. Why is Kong Techu so lucky? He's from the solar system, but he has so many treasures. Wu Shujian was envious. He was sure that if that stone cauldron appeared in the ruins of deity, it would cause a huge uproar and many princes would want to fight for it. Kong Techu has turned the tables. Could it be that he will win? Fairy Yao Yu's eyes also widened in shock. I guess so. Wu Shujian heaved a sigh and said, Xin Chang hasn't destroyed the Dharma laws left by Kong Techu yet. If he fights with Kong Techu, he won't have a chance of winning. Besides, a defeated army is like a landslide. Kong Techu has even destroyed the most powerful Golden Crow mothership. The other ships aren't safe at all. Before he finished, he saw a few black dots flying out from the ruins of the Golden Crow mothership. They were Xin Chang and a few other divine generals and heavenly lords. At this time, Xin Chang's hair was messy and his body was covered in blood. His armor was broken and his robe was torn. He looked like a stray dog. The chaotic source stone cauldron was a deity treasure. It was owned by Emperor Zhongli in the past. It had the power of nature and could nourish thousands of creatures. It had countless uses and was invaluable. If it fell into the hands of a soul formation overlord, he could create a grotto heaven. If a deity emperor obtained it, he could create a galaxy great world. If the primordial chaos god was able to create a universe, he could even create a universe. Jiang Tian's full-powered attack with the chaotic source stone cauldron was terrifying. Unless it was a nascent soul heavenly lord in a cabin with multiple protection or a half-step soul formation cultivator with many Dharma artifacts, no one could resist that attack. Even so, only a few of them survived. Almost all of them were wiped out. Kong Techu, you destroyed my mothership, killed my brothers and slaughtered my guards. Even the water of the heavenly river can't wash away this hatred. Shen Chang gritted his teeth and almost spurted out blood. Now, I've sacrificed 500 years of my life to destroy the Dharma laws you left in my body. My power has fully recovered. Today, if I don't destroy your body and extract your divine soul, I won't be the captain of the Golden Crow Guards, Shen Chang. Wu Shujian was shocked. Although Shen Chang was in a mess, the wounds on his body had healed and Jiang Tian's Dharma laws had also been erased. It's over. This time, Kong Techu is in danger. Shen Chang's power alone can surpass all the divine generals. Wu Shujian rubbed his palms and thought about Jiang Tian's heaven-extinguishing sword again. Huh, do you think you can fight with me just because you've recovered your power? You're dreaming. I can kill you with one slash. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold when he saw this. He didn't say anything and directly took out the absolute heaven sword. He flicked the sword and sang loudly. Clanging sounds rang out, and his battle intent rose steadily. Chapter 1473. Kong Teichu, Captain Xinchang has fully recovered. He's a peerless half-soul formation cultivator. Do you think you're a match for him? Stop resisting stubbornly. Your end is here. Surrender. This is your only chance. Don't make a mistake. After a brutal battle, there were only 3 divine generals left of the Golden Crow Guards. They had suffered heavy losses and their morale was extremely low. But when they saw that Xinchang had recovered, they became more confident again, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. They only thought that Jiang Tian would be vulnerable as long as Xinchang was there. Jiang Taichu, we admit that we made a mistake and underestimated you. But you're still no match for Captain Xinchang. No matter how strong you are, you're only a golden core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator, while he's infinitely close to the soul formation cultivator. This is the difference between mortals and deities, humans and gods. It's like a natural chasm that can't be crossed. Kneel down and surrender. You've killed too many people. That's unforgivable. Even Jing Shimin and Shi Jinxiang, who had been scared out of their wits, walked out of the ship and jumped up and down, scolding Jiang Tian, trying to persuade him to surrender and to threaten him. I've killed too many people. That's unforgivable. Jiang Tian's face was full of mockery. His eyes were as cold as steel. He asked coldly, "How many people did you kill when you invaded this world? Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, right? Aren't they human? You came to assassinate me without declaring war. Do you think I should just stretch out my neck and let you kill me without any resistance? Your lives are important, but are our lives not important?" That's right. A Golden Crow Divine General took a step forward and said arrogantly, "That's right. All the creatures in the lower worlds, including mortals, cultivators, civilians and emperors, must listen to the orders of the upper worlds and the ruins of deity. We have the power to kill and take. If we want you to die, you have to kill yourself to atone for your sins. If we want to kill you, you should wash your necks and wait for us to chop them off. Why?" Jiang Tian's eyes were as cold as ice and his killing intent became stronger. But Kong Teichu, you are the strongest person in the solar system. Don't tell me you don't understand this logic. Although the other divine general was covered in blood and had fled like a wild dog after being beaten by Jiang Tian, he was still extremely arrogant at the moment. It's very simple. In the cultivation world, the strong are respected and the weak are ants. This is the truth of justice. You are too weak, so you should be bullied, enslaved, and killed. Haha, do you know what happened to the people who spoke to me like that? It was a dimensional world in the solar system, West Earth. The Buddhist sect has led an army of 100,000 from the various countries to wipe out Mo. Jiang Tian threw his head back and let out a long laugh. Then, his expression turned cold as he said in a deep voice, "With a sharp weapon in your heart, your killing intent will be aroused. With my ability, who can stop me if I kill unhindered? But all these years, I've been reminding myself to maintain a peaceful heart and a heart that sympathizes with the mortal world. If I want to become a soul formation cultivator, I have to become a mortal first. You always think you're very strong, but you don't know that in my eyes, you and the Ruins Emperor are ants that I can crush with a raise of my hand. You're very weak. But weakness is never an obstacle to survival. Arrogance is. Now, you'll pay the price for your arrogance. I don't want to kill anyone, but you have a death wish. Well, it's been a long time since I've killed so happily. Then die." As Jiang Tian's final words left his mouth, he swung his sword across the sky and slashed out. The 10-foot bright disk behind him spun rapidly. Endless true essence and the power of Dharma laws were injected into heaven-annihilating sword, turning into a giant sword aura that was 1,000 feet long. Once the sword aura was shot out, a long tail of light immediately appeared in the sky, creating countless space cracks. It flashed across 100 miles, passing over 100 Golden Crow Guard battleships like a dream. Before the cultivators could react, a loud noise was heard. More than a dozen spaceships were slashed in half without any resistance, as if wax had been cut by a hot knife. The terrifying heaven-annihilating sword aura was like mercury flowing on the ground and the heavenly river hanging upside down, filling the entire sky. Colorful fireballs exploded almost immediately after the ship cracked open, crushing thousands of golden crow cultivators on the ship, including many nascent soul heavenly lords and 2 divine generals. At that moment, everyone screamed as if they had seen a devil. Their hearts were cold. The sword aura rolled in the sky and the chilling sword chi covered 1,000 miles. There were claps of thunder, but snow was falling and the ground was frozen. The sun and the moon were upside down and the world was in chaos. Countless cultivators from the upper world were dumbfounded. The power of that slash was too explosive. It destroyed 100 miles of space and slashed 100 spaceships. Its power had completely surpassed that of a Dao artifact and reached an unprecedented level. Jiang Tian only needed a few slashes to destroy all the starships of the Gold Crow Guards, the White Python Guards, and the Dark Crow Guards, leaving no survivors. Everyone realized that Jiang Tian's power had greatly increased after taking out that sword. He was almost as powerful as a soul formation cultivator. That slash was too powerful. It was as if Pangu had swung a giant axe and the gods of creation had split the chaos. It seemed to be able to split the stars and the moon. What kind of sword is that? Why is it so powerful? Is it a Dao artifact? No, it's even more powerful than a Dao artifact. Jing Shimin, Shizhenxiang and the other sect masters of the heavenly sects were terrified. They had never seen such a powerful Dharma artifact. They hadn't even seen one in the ruins of deity, not to mention Hailan. Jiang Tian didn't waste any time. He turned into a ray of light and rushed towards Xinchang. He went straight through the army and slashed with the heaven-annihilating sword again and again. Boom! Almost in a blink, 3 more armies were destroyed by the heaven-annihilating sword. At the same time, the 10-foot wheel behind Jiang Tian was spinning extremely fast. In the end, the 9 golden cores almost merged into one and turned into a chaotic golden core. That was a secret art called the 9 Changes Reincarnation Nirvana Wheel. Only those who had 9 different Dharma laws and 9 different golden cores could perform it. The 9 Dharma laws cycled endlessly, forming endless killing intent and destruction. It could temporarily unleash the power of a soul formation cultivator, shake the sun and the moon, and make the world tremble. Then, as the sword was swung down, the space within a radius of hundreds of miles was shaken. Thunders rumbled, ice and snow fluttered, and the sword light surged like waves. Ships exploded in the air like clay toys being smashed down by a 10,000-ton hammer, turning into fireworks and collapsing into a picture. The wheel spun like a wheel of light. The chariot of the sun god flashed across the sky like a cutting machine, cutting the ships into pieces. It was indestructible and unstoppable. Countless cultivators from the upper worlds didn't even have time to scream. Golden core cultivators and nascent soul cultivators all died in an instant. Some were turned into charcoal by the thunderbolts, some were torn apart by the dimensional cracks, some were minced into a rain of flesh by the blade aura, and some were smashed into meat pies by the huge pressure. Behind Jiang Tian was a sky full of broken limbs and the wreckage of a huge battleship. 100,000 golden core cultivators and hundreds of spaceships had actually been killed by him. It was as if he was plowing through a yard and sweeping through a cave, forcefully breaking open a path. In fact, Jiang Tian's goal was to kill Xinchang. Killing them was just a matter of convenience. But the 3 guards were killed and their blood flowed like rivers. Corpses were everywhere and blood was scattered all over the sky. He can fight 3,000 miles and fight against 1,000,000 soldiers with one slash. This is his real limit. It's terrifying. Wu Shujian's heart trembled. This time, his thoughts about whether he could get Jiang Tian's heaven-annihilating sword were shaken for the first time. Jiang Tian was already extremely terrifying without the heaven-annihilating sword. No one could stop him when he used it. Chapter 1474. Fall back, fall back, fall back. That's terrifying. He's like an Azura god of war. He's unstoppable. Everyone was terrified. Even the sect masters of the heavenly sects were pale. The ships retreated one after another, leaving the battlefield to Xianxia and Xianxia. I'm afraid that not even the princes of the Ruins Emperor's Palace and the Grand Chancellor of the 100 Moon Academy are comparable to Kong Teichu. Fairy Yao Yu's face turned pale. She was so scared that her legs went soft. She couldn't even stand straight. Legend has it that there are more powerful worlds outside of the South Gate Galaxy. There are elites who can level a large world by themselves. I didn't believe it at first, but after seeing how terrifying Kong Teichu is, I have no choice but to believe it. Ghost Wolf's hands trembled. Even in the ruins of immortality, divine generals like them could be counted on one hand. They could suppress a level 2 world, but they couldn't even withstand one slash from Xianxia. We can only count on Captain Xinchang now. Ghost Wolf had completely lost the confidence to compete with Xianxia. He knew he was too weak. Kong Teichu, that's enough. This is your last struggle. You don't have a chance anymore. All of this happened too quickly. Once the absolute heaven sword was used, Xianxia's battle prowess increased by 10-fold or even 100-fold. He pushed through the iron flood of battleships like cutting vegetables. When Xinchang realized what had happened, it was too late. He couldn't help but attack. His body flickered with golden light and was surrounded by flames. He was like a sun in the sky. His right hand grabbed at the void, and a golden longsword surrounded by flames and shining with black light appeared in his hand. The golden crow sword was 10 feet long and emitted the energy of the sun true fire. It was engraved with the laws and runes of the golden crows. It was a supreme-grade true artifact. An extremely terrifying energy rose from Xinchang's body and rose to the sky. It quickly surpassed the nascent soul level and reached the soul formation level. Countless people looked up and felt that Xinchang, who was in the void, was like a sun in the sky. It was as if he was a giant that could break through the heavens. You talk too much. You and I only need to fight. The 10-meter-long divine disc behind him spun like a sun in the sky. Xianxia played his sword and sang loudly. His battle intent was vigorous, and his aura was unparalleled. He was like a supreme divine general. The battle that would determine the life and death of the cultivators of the upper realm had finally begun. The two of them moved, instantly leaving space and disappearing from everyone's line of sight. Regardless of whether it was Xianxia or Xinchang, both had reached the point where they could shatter the void. Xianxia's Dharma laws were powerful, especially the Kunpeng speed Dharma laws, which were tailor-made for breaking through space. Xinchang was a half-step soul formation cultivator and had an extremely strong body and mind. He could go against the space storm. To them, tearing apart the vacuum was as easy as eating and drinking. Clang! The absolute sky sword and the golden crow ancient sword clashed together, creating a terrifying shockwave. Space was instantly torn apart by the two forces. Immediately after, an even more terrifying sound wave swept across the entire ancient demon abyss like a tsunami. All the buildings within a radius of 100 miles were reduced to dust by this attack. Countless cultivators and demonic beasts with weak cultivation bases were directly shattered by this sound. If Wu Shujian and the others hadn't retreated far enough and didn't have life-saving secret treasures, they would have been torn apart by the sound wave immediately. But even so, he still pulled Fairy Yao Yu and fled as fast as he could. Clang, clang. The void was filled with their afterimages. The absolute sky sword with a cold viciousness clashed with the golden crow ancient sword surrounded by fire and golden light. Each of their attacks created countless shockwaves in the air. The dimension within a 100-mile radius was shattered, the mountains cracked, and the ground sank. After 3 slashes, the area within a 100-mile radius around the two of them had turned into a giant black hole that swallowed everything. The barrier of this world, which was also the spatial barrier, had a hole punched through it. The two of them even went into the dimension turbulence and fought in the space storm. Oh God, this isn't the power of a golden core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator. I'm afraid only soul formation grand cultivators have such destructive power. Wu Shujian's legs trembled. He was one of the elites on the God of War role and had dominated an era. He thought even the princes of the Ruins Emperor's palace were only slightly more powerful than him. And yet, he was like an ant in front of those two. Both Jiang Tian and Xianxia could kill him with one slash. At this moment, Wu Shujian finally realized how terrifying a true peerless genius was. Clang. When the four collisions broke out, Xianxia fell from 100,000 feet in the sky. Divine blood splashed everywhere as he smashed into the ground, creating a crater that was a few miles large. The entire ancient demon abyss shook. The cultivators of the upper worlds were dumbfounded. Xianxia was killed with one slash? That's impossible. Ghost Wolf couldn't believe it and yelled. In his eyes, Xianxia was invincible. Even when facing a real soul formation cultivator, Xianxia would be able to resist for a while. Even though Jiang Tian was powerful, he hadn't reached the nascent soul level after all. In terms of power, it was impossible for him to reach the soul formation level. How could he kill Xianxia? Wu Shujian also opened his mouth wide. That was a Real Guard captain and a noble of the Golden Crows. His ancestor was an ancient Golden Crow Grand Cultivator who oversaw the South Gate Galaxy. Such a terrifying talent was defeated by Jiang Tian. How powerful was Jiang Tian? Caw! An earth-shattering sound came out of the crater. A beam of fire shot to the sky like a jet of sun essence, revealing Xianxia's battered body. Blood came out of the corner of his mouth and there were sword marks on the parts of his body that weren't covered by the armor. One of his arms was even broken. The power of Jiang Tian's heaven-severing sword was earth-shattering and was comparable to that of a soul formation cultivator. But Xianxia didn't get angry. He laughed and said, "Ant, your sword is of a very high level, even surpassing a Dao artifact. You're just a nascent soul cultivator. Even if you have the power of a half-soul formation cultivator, how many times can you use it? How many more times do I need to use it? I can kill you with one slash." Jiang Tian raised his sword to his eyebrows. His eyes were as cold as ice. There was not a trace of emotion in them, and they were filled with unparalleled determination and determination. Boom! Jiang Tian's divine will spun and turned into a beam of light, flashing towards Xianxia again. Xianxia shouted. Around his body, rays of divine light shot into the sky like smoke signals, and his aura shook the heavens and the earth. The Golden Crow battle armor was bursting with flames that seemed to burn the heavens. It was overflowing with sunlight and a terrifying aura was brewing. There seemed to be a burning sun inside Xianxia's body, providing it with enormous energy. Both Wu Shujian and Ghost Wolf were far behind in front of such energy. Boom! The sky shook and the sun and the moon shook. The two of them clashed once again. Nirvana, break the sky. Jiang Tian slashed with his sword. The shadow of a giant Kunpeng appeared behind him. With a swing of the ultimate sky sword, it turned into a Kunpeng with its wings spread. It flew to the 9 underworlds, split the chaos and rose to heaven, breaking through the clouds. Boom! That slash was extremely magical. It struck out from an unimaginable angle, leaving no trace behind. Xianxia could not withstand it and the Golden Crow ancient sword was split open. The shadow of the Kunpeng swept past his body. Xianxia's body was split in half by the sharp sword qi. A bloodline appeared on his forehead. The bloodline extended from his head to his abdomen and was split in the middle. Even the quasi-Dao artifact Golden Crow armor couldn't protect him. Xianxia let out an unwilling roar. Then his nascent soul shattered uncontrollably. It exploded like hundreds of nuclear weapons, illuminating the entire ancient demon abyss. It could be seen from tens of thousands of miles away. The captain of the Golden Crow Guards, one of the 9 guards of the Ruins Emperor's Palace, the most powerful divine general among the 99 divine generals and a noble of the Golden Crow lineage, Xianxia, had finally died. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.